Hello and welcome to episode 27 of the Comic Conspiracy. Yes, I don't know what the hell. I was going to say this is for some date, because that's what Ryan Scott always says in the Geek Box, but I don't know. It's October or something or other. My name's Ryan. Who else is with me this week?
Brock Sager.
And we have the return of our special guests.
Charlie West.
Oh, Toby.
What's going on, Charlie and Toby? We are back through our wrap-up of all our brand new DC 52 #1 reviews and talking about stuff. It should be fun.
And it's 10/10/11, by the way.
Okay, I don't care what the date is. It's not important. You can listen to this at any time, and it's awesome. Before we actually get into that, real quick, there's an email we got actually yesterday, earlier today or something. And
there's a timestamp on it.
Yeah, it says 5 hours ago. I wasn't going to read any emails today, but I thought it was a good email to read today. It says, "Hey, Brock and Ryan." It's from Marco. It says, "Hey, Brock and Ryan. I'd like to thank Brock for recommending We 3. I was blown away. It's a shame it wasn't an ongoing series. We 3 is a good book.
It is a good book.
But it doesn't need to be an ongoing.
No. That's just more animal cruelty. And Morrison got that out of his system with, like, Animal Man.
Get the news. I have a question for both of you, and I'm asking because I've never heard either of you mention this series on the podcast. What are your opinions on Witchblade? Be honest. Keep up the good work."
Good. That's the funny thing. That's why you're being funny today?
The reason I thought it was funny that this email came in today is Brock is wearing a Witchblade shirt today, which I don't think I've ever seen him wear before. So I was like, "You're wearing a Witchblade t-shirt?"
Yes, I am.
I think you like Witchblade okay, but like I didn't know he had t-shirts for Witchblade. So
I got this years ago. It's a XX, so I had to wear it because my XLs don't fit anymore. I need to lose some weightage.
You're doing good there for a while.
Yeah, then I got a girlfriend. They fatten you up because they don't want anybody else getting you at you. Witchblade?
Yeah, I don't think... I think I read the first couple issues when it came out, and then when Paul Jenkins took over writing around like issue 50, I think I read a few issues, and it just never did anything for me. I never read any of the Top Cow stuff. I read
it a long time ago when it was really hot, and then... But I don't even remember what half the story was about. I mean, I know it's a hot chick in a red dress that runs around and she's got this alien biomechanical shit. I've always liked Turner's artwork on it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that keeps me interested. But is it something that I've gone back to? Not necessarily yet. I might go back and try it out. But overall, I think I just got the shirt because at the time the Witchblade was out and I was reading an issue and I thought Turner artwork was cool.
There you go.
It still is.
Charlie, Toby, you guys read much Witchblade?
No, I haven't read too much of it. I mean, I kind of liked a lot of the concepts and stuff, but it never really grabbed me from week to week kind of thing.
Yeah, the whole Witchblade in Darkness, I don't know.
Was confusing.
Well, the whole Top Cow universe, I just never got into. Top Cow and Wildstorm, both of them, I never really got into. I read some Wildstorm, but I don't know. Just those guys, I read most of the Image stuff. I just never got into the long running Image books. Now, Toby, you're a big Michael Turner fan.
Yeah.
You read any Witchblade past the first couple of years?
No. I did. I think like you when you came back. I think I read those. Paul Jenkins?
Yeah. I think it was Paul Jenkins.
I think, around that point, I was reading it again. I liked it there. I liked the stuff with the sister for a little bit, but it just kind of, after a while, I think it was like crossover stuff that did it again, too. Yeah, I was following it, and then after a while, it was like I got lost and I gave up on it.
Yeah, it's up to issue 140-something now. It's like, cool, it's still going on, but... Yeah, that Top Cow stuff seems to be you're into the whole thing.
It's funny because I think the Top Cow stuff, they got some really great ideas. Especially when I listen to them, at conventions and when they talk and stuff, they got some really really solid ideas. But for some reason, it's not translating into the books very easily, or for some reason, like when you read the books, it's. You know what they were trying to do. The idea was cool, but they're taking either too long or too dragged out, or something is just not right. Yeah, but some of the seeds, some of the ideas they have are definitely cool. Yeah.
Well, that always seemed to be a very common problem for any really successful book. Is a lot of times those concepts are really solid to begin with, and you get some stuff, but as soon as it becomes a hit, and they kind of realize that they can't wrap up the story, they go on trying to figure out ways to extend it out and keep it going.
Well, this is the Spawn problem. The whole thing was it was sort of supposed to be kind of a limited deal at the beginning. They had the whole clock. He was eventually going to die, and they just sort of got rid of that. And they've relaunched the book 5 or 6 times in the last handful of years to no interest at all. So it's it's good to see these books still kicking around, but real hard to.
I think the underdog in that's like Savage Dragon. That thing still keeps going.
Yeah. Savage Dragon has a pretty solid fan base, but it never sells any more than it did the previous month. So, it's one of those books where it's got its kind of like Cerebus and some of these real long-running indie books where it's got its fan base. It's never going to get any new fans, but it's loyal. So that's better than most books can say.
Mm-hmm.
Toby, what was your ape? You good on ape? We want to talk ape?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Are you good? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to open up with ape? I mean, what you usually talk about a little bit. You kind of.
Well, ape is the Alternative Press Expo. It was ran in San Jose for many years. Moved to San Francisco a couple of years back. It's been up there. It's actually been up there for a number of years now. I used to go to ape all the time. It started being run by Slave Elite Graphics. It was kind of who started it. The guys that do Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and Lenore. I was really into that stuff when that was coming on. I think I went to every ape, but like the very first or the very first 2. I went to all of them. Just a lot of fun. And then when they moved to San Francisco, but it's become a much bigger, just like small press indie con than anything it was when it was in San Jose. But I just felt over the last handful of years, I haven't gone. I had seen the same stuff every year, and a lot of these indie guys don't come out with new work, or if they do, it's very slow. So there was never anything new there, as opposed to like a WonderCon where it's always tons of new stuff. I just kind of got a little burned out. I'd seen everything I wanted to see there, so I kind of haven't gone the last few years, but I will go back at some point.
Yeah, so I'm kind of the same way. So, it's the same guys trying to promote the same books they had done. It would be something else if, same guy has like, look, last year I had issue 1,
right.
And this year I have issue 2, but no, that's usually not the case. They usually promote the same book they got.
Right.
But, so I tend to go, I think, every 2 or every 4 years. So I have like a little gap in between.
Because it's been, what is this, like 12? 13 years, something like that. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but it's been going for quite some time. So,
yeah. I actually really liked it this year, and it's kind of funny. I actually picked up more stuff than I did at WonderCon this year as well.
Nice.
They changed the layouts a little bit. I don't know if they did that last year or if that's anything from this year. It seems to be a little bigger. They have a lot of what seems to be art students trying to promote their stuff, which... If the stuff is cool, I kind of dig it, but some of the guys were like, I'm not sure if you're here for trying to just get some money or if you're just trying to get your name out there, but if you are, you maybe should, look at what other guys are doing because, it looks a little silly when you're just there and you have a couple of pictures out there and you're just trying to sell that. So,
is this kind of like the Anime Con, like art, like the art room?
It's more, it's definitely more professional than that. These guys are definitely wanting to do it. It's, sounds like the anime, Fanime. There's a lot of fans
just
in
kids
there.
and fans.
Yeah, these are art students. These are people that are definitely like in design school and this and that. They know what they're doing. So it's just, it depends on, some of the tables I'm like, all right, I'm not so sure. If you have a business sense, maybe it's the thing that they're just total artists and they go like, we don't know what to do here. But while others, they have their stuff together and they got some really nice stuff going on there. I want to give a couple of shout outs. I picked up a lot of stuff from Brittany Lee. A friend of mine recommended her to me, and she got some really cool stuff. You can check out her stuff at britsketch.blogspot.com. She has some cool stuff where she actually cuts out. Like, there's pictures where she does a lot of paper cutouts and overlays them, so it's kind of a 3D effect, which is really, really kind of cool. I also picked up so this is kind of funny. So when I used to go, I used to pick up alternative reads, which it's not that anymore. It's more like alternative art, more prints, more toy stuff, more art stuff in general, prints, rather than comics. Like, this is the comic I did and printed out in Kinko's. It's less of that. But I did find one. It's called Surfside Girls, and it's really cool. It's by Kim, and her website is Kim DWINELL at blogspot.com, and it's really cool. It's about this teenage surfer girl who has a problem with her best friend trying to grow up. She's kind of boy crazy and stuff, and she's not ready yet. And they go surfing, and she finds this hole under the ocean and kind of goes into this other world where there's a bunch of ghosts and stuff like that. And there's like a cute little pirate boy and stuff. And it's kind of a cool read. I actually have to say the art's kind of cool. You know, the colors are really dope. It's what actually grabbed my attention is the colors. There's definitely some new stuff out there. I actually been digging it a lot this year.
That's
so,
cool. That's cool.
Yeah, thumbs up for, all the people that did a really good job out there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably try to go back next year. I've said that the last year or two, but one of these days I will get back there. Especially if...
I hear that like every day.
Well,
yeah, one of these days.
Well, especially if there's no WonderCon next year.
You know what? It was cool. Yeah. I was almost not going to go. Actually, Charlie took the Sunday I was supposed to work, but since he was working that one, I was like, wait a minute, I could go to, Ape and check it out. So it was kind of a very, very, very last minute thing, and I was actually really glad I was able to go.
Cool. Excellent. All right. Well, yeah, I'll definitely have to try it. Next year, we'll have to take a store trip up there.
A store trip?
Ooh, a field trip.
I don't know if I should say this on a podcast, but I walked by this one lady, and I looked down at the art, and I was like, I hate to say it, I never want to say anybody's art is horrible, but it's stuff like, if I was 5, that's how I would draw. It's what it looked like to me. And then I was like, maybe it's not her. Maybe she's there from some kind of kids foundation, something like that. It's like maybe some, she's like trying to, work for some organization stuff. But I'm like, I didn't see any flyers or anything. And she just kind of smiled at me, and I'm like, I hope this is not her work. I really do hope that's not her stuff, but I was too scared to ask. So I kind of just walked away, but it was a very, very odd thing. It looked like something, Charlie's kids would be drawing. It was like, are you really trying to sell this stuff? I mean, not to be mean, it could be just her style.
Sure.
But I was very thrown off by it. And I was definitely looking for some kind of, these are for like, kids that are in hospitals, please donate money or something like that. That would have been really cool.
Well, if you've ever seen all the great famous web strips on the internet that look like they're all drawn in MS Paint, like, that is a thing. So
okay.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well, she was doing superheroes like Spider-Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four, Superman.
Maybe she wants to draw for Tiny Titans.
I don't know. It was...
Hey, Tiny Titans is badass.
Yes,
it was a little odd. But other than that, there was some fantastic stuff out there, so I really liked it, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, I think we're just going to go ahead and try to burn through this.
Let's knock this
the
bastard
last 2
out.
weeks. See if we can clock this guy in under 2 hours this time.
Why do you have to say that? You jinx it every time. Just go.
Well, no, mostly because I don't know if our Libsyn account can actually hold another 2 hour long podcast. So let's really see if we can get through this. I think at this time we'll just go straight through this list alphabetically here. So for those that didn't join us last week, you should go back and listen to the last week's episode where we discussed the first 2 weeks of the DC Comics New 52 number ones. This week we're going to polish off the last 2 weeks here. Some highs, some lows, and some massive controversies. Let's start with the on sale September 21st dates. Starting with Batman number 1. Actually, I should have opened this before I did this. It was Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes.
Scott Snyder? Yeah, he's the man. He was doing Detective previously, and they moved him over to the main Batman title.
Yeah, that last detective story arc was awesome.
Stuff with the jock. Yeah, it was badass. So this is your standard Bruce Wayne is Batman fighting a bunch of bad guys. Good stuff. We found out earlier that read Batman before you read Nightwing, which
will make a little more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you read Nightwing, which we'll get to in a bit, Nightwing gives away basically the ending of the first issue of Batman. So read Batman first if you haven't already read these.
Or if you read Nightwing, you know why after you read Batman. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Well,
I didn't even make the connection until we started talking about it a few minutes ago. I totally did not make the connection that those two books were involved, or like crossed over with each other. So.
At least it sure seems like they were.
Yeah.
Not art-wise, though.
No.
Yeah, it seems like Dick is a lot smaller in Batman than he's in the Nightwing book.
Yeah, not much to say about Batman. I mean, it is the best-selling title for the month of September.
Yeah,
Batman
it
number
is.
1 is huge numbers. Again, this is continuing the great quality that was started in Detective Comics. Scott Snyder, he is one of the best writers in the modern comic book industry. This guy came literally out of nowhere, at least to my knowledge, and I hope he continues to do all sorts of badass books. What do you guys think? Batman.
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I know what scene you're talking about when it's in reference to Nightwing, but I didn't pick up Nightwing, so...
No?
No.
What?
I've never been into Nightwing. Like, the only time I pick up Nightwing is when it crosses over in the Bat universe.
You've got like 3.5 people that are going to beat your ass.
Yeah, I think you just became my mortal enemy here, man.
This is me carrying.
That's me saying I'm not sure if Charlie's the biggest the biggest Nightwing fan, and Toby counts as 2 Nightwing fans. So
They can like Nightwing. I don't have anything against. I don't have anything against Dick Grayson.
We're gonna hate on you this whole first half of this podcast,
yeah,
because you didn't like some good books.
Yeah, whatever. No, I really enjoyed Batman. Definitely can see why it hit the top spot for September. Like you said, Scott Snyder's doing a lot of good work. Hope he keeps it up. Hope he can keep it up with all the books that he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, I personally I did like the Batman book, but because I was the one unfortunate enough to read Nightwing first, it didn't hit with me the same level it did with other people. And not to sort of get into my review of Nightwing too much right now,
too early.
But there was a certain sense in the Nightwing book of him sort of, again, stepping out on his own, getting away from the whole sidekick role. So it was a little jarring going back to Batman, where he just allowed himself to be put into Arkham for weeks and seemed more of a sidekick in that book.
I don't know that I'd really agree with that. I mean, that sort of level seems more partnership-ish. I don't think Batman would let Robin into Arkham for a few weeks.
The current Robin will be a whole nother story.
Well,
Arkham for a few weeks either. He'd probably be smiling at the end of it too.
Well, with the whole Batman Incorporated thing, I think it's moving to where we have Batman is kind of the head, but he's also respectful of what Dick has to say,
right.
Stuff like that. With everybody else in the Batman universe, we'll see how the interaction happens, but especially with Dick and Bruce, their interaction doesn't really need any changes. It just needs to evolve to where it needs to evolve.
Yeah, so I read it and I thought it was all right at first. When I started reading the book, I just read it and go, look, this is like just any other Batman title I've been reading until the end. I'm like, okay, that was a cool, interesting spin on it. It'll be interesting to see where they go. Although it does bother me quite a bit that Nightwing looks so young in it. It bothers me quite a bit, actually. He's just a little taller than, Tim. And
was that in Batman and Robin?
No, it's in this one right here.
No. Was it in Batman and Robin that we saw all 4 of them together?
Yes.
Yeah, they just look... Oh, wait, yeah. Okay.
Oh, no.
Toby's got the art there. Is that Batman?
Yeah, that's Batman right here.
There's a shot in Batman where it's Batman and all 3 of the Robins together, and Nightwing, Red Robin, and Color Robin.
It looks like Damian is a kid... And then
that's right.
I mean, Damian looks 10. Well,
Damian looks 10, and then who's
that's Tim.
Tim looks like a tween, and Dick looks like a 17-year-old boy.
Which to me, that's not the case anymore.
Well,
especially if you look at him in the Nightwing book.
Dick should be about 21, 22 if they're kind of dialing this back a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now,
on the other hand, Batman looks super young in this book too.
I think it's just that shot.
Yeah.
Batman looks like he's like 24.
I've noticed that, especially it's a little off topic, but the hooded girl. A couple of people said that it looks like there's a hooded guy too, but it's technically the artist's rendition of the character that makes it look slightly masculine in some cases, but it's the hooded girl.
Yeah, I don't know
throughout the whole thing.
Well, I think.
But yeah, no, it was cool in the book. It was cool, and like I said, it reads like a normal Batman book, nothing special, but it has a cool spin at the end. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Birds of Prey is next by Dwayne Straczynski, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, and art with Jesus Saiz.
We need to get a Google voice thing to say the names for us. So we just type it in and then hit the button and then it says the name for us.
So it can mispronounce
exactly.
All right. Birds of Prey was a very popular previous kind of Batman, the Women of the Batman universe, the Women of Gotham team-up book, and this pretty much continues that. We have Black Canary being kind of the major member in this, although there's no Barbara Gordon, who was kind of the head of the previous version.
She made a cameo.
Right? She was asked, but declined. This is a much different take on Black Canary than we've seen before, and I think Toby specifically again, as a huge Birds of Prey fan and a huge Black Canary fan.
I see. It's funny that you said it did just continue it, which I totally disagree with you on. Because
I didn't say it continued.
Oh, okay.
No, it's totally different.
Yeah, this is not Birds of Prey to me anymore at all. Like, it doesn't have the feel of it anymore. It doesn't have the leadership anymore.
Well, this is very much like a Thelma and Louise sort of Girls on the Run.
Yeah, it reads a little more like Gotham Sirens.
Yeah.
It's like they took Birds of Prey and Gotham Sirens and mated them and just called it Birds of Prey.
Well, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's like a retake on the Birds of Prey where, Black Canary is trying to form the team and Barbara actually said no to it. And to me, the heart of Birds of Prey was always the relationship between Barbara and Black Canary. That's always the heart of it, Then you got, Huntress thrown in who doesn't always listen, which, made the trio a little more interesting.
Right.
So to me, that was what the Birds of Prey was. And it was like the extension of the Bat Unit, They go on their other missions, but to me, this book does not feel like the Birds anymore. I didn't dislike the book, though. However, that's it. I didn't dislike it. It was cool.
Very different take, though.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with the new characters they have in there. However, I wish it was called something else. I would not have a problem with it unless, if it was something else, I would have been actually kind of happy with the book, but I don't like Birds. And Black Canary is very different in this, too, so we'll see where this goes. But like I said, don't know.
Brock? Charlie?
I didn't pick it up, probably because I tried getting into Birds with the last installment of it. And the first few stories were okay, but then it just kind of lost me in where it went. And
well, the most recent Birds of Prey was pretty heavily reliant on the previous run. So a lot of the characters in there, kind of outside Hawk and Dove, if you hadn't read the previous run, that Gail Simone picked up around issue 60-some-odd, 66, something like that, you probably wouldn't kind of get like characters like Savant and the relationship between Lady Blackhawk and all that. They don't really explain that stuff.
I didn't really have a problem with the Savant character.
This is different. So.
I didn't really have a problem with the Savant character, and it was the story arc in between the first one and the Death of Oracle that kind of just didn't really do anything for me, where they travel somewhere, there's a fight, and nothing really happens, and then there's who does she fight in that issue?
The White Canary?
No, the White Canary stuff, I was just like, whatever, I don't care. But one of the characters, I think Huntress, fights some guy, and they make out. It's the guy from the Secret Six, the cat guy, Catman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that issue, I just wanted to blow my brains out.
Do you not read Secret Six?
No, I don't read Secret Six.
Oh, what the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
Obviously a lot. So it's okay.
No, but Birds of Prey had some great moments, though. I mean, it's got, the first time, where Black Canary meets Barbara, where they meet, and that's a great comic book stuff right there. Like, where they go on mission, they don't even know each other.
I'd like to read the earlier stuff, but the stuff from this last installment didn't really impress me enough to carry over with this.
Yeah, and there's another one I really like where Barbara was able to move her toad a little bit. That was it was a fantastic issue. There's some really, really good stuff in the older Birds of Prey stuff.
Well, I agree with Toby. There's some great stuff in the older Birds of Prey stuff. This new relaunch didn't work for me at all. I didn't enjoy that book. I kind of felt like I was jumping into the middle of something where I could tell I wasn't actually jumping into the middle of a story. It just felt like it anyways. Mm-hmm. So I didn't think it was a good relaunch book to bring in new readers.
A couple of these books, you're kind of thrown into the middle of a situation, which
could be fine in the long run. If you read second issue, it might explain it a little more. It's like one of those TV shows that just start and something's happening, and as you go, explains everything.
Right.
So,
like the Breaking Bad pilots, which I need to finish watching.
But I guess for me, when it comes to these sort of relaunch books, a lot of people are picking up these issue ones, trying to make a decision. Is this something they're going to keep going with? And
it's going to be really hard with Birds of Prey. And it's a hard read, too, because I started and it was one of the books I would put down. And, I still have to read it. And it took me a while.
I mean, you and I have seen this on the forums at Geekbox where people are very meticulously making the list of the 52 titles that they're picking up, because I mean, with the way the economy is right now, a lot of people are like, you really need to get somebody hooked.
Sure.
So but Birds of Prey is one of those things where if they didn't hook, it's definitely a book that people are not going to get number two.
Yeah. I think some stories may just read better in trade, and this one may be one of them. We'll see, but I think they kind of failed at what the intent of this relaunch was.
Okay, we're going to move on one more. Blue Beetle by Tony Bedard, Ig Guerra, and Guy Jose. I don't know who those artists are. I never heard of them. That's actually one of the things. A lot of new artists coming in a lot of these DC titles. So some are good, some aren't so good. This is basically a retelling of the last Blue Beetle miniseries. It seems or the last Blue Beetle ongoing series seems almost identical. Blue Beetle is a kid, Jaime Reyes, finds the Scarab, becomes this protector of the world. It was all right. I wasn't a huge fan of the previous run on Blue Beetle. I liked the character a lot, but his solo book never did anything for me. I thought he was really good in Justice League International. I thought he was really good in Infinite Crisis and some of the team-up stuff, but his solo title never did anything for me, and this also did nothing for me. So.
I like the is it Jaime or Jamie?
Jaime.
I like the Jaime Blue Beetle, especially in Generation Lost.
Yeah.
Justice League Generation Lost. And a couple of the titles where he crosses over, I've liked him. But as a single character, I tried reading a couple of his solo, and I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
So, and I like Tony Bedard. He did Rebels, right?
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that Rebels stuff. So, I would have picked it up because of him, but because it's a character that I'm not a big fan of as an individual in a solo series, I passed. So,
I read it and didn't really enjoy it. In fact, I don't remember most of the issues other than a couple of...
It was just like a retelling.
Yeah.
It was just an origin retelling, and then going back through the Reach, which is like his big villain group that are they hate the Green Lanterns, but they never really did much with them in the last series, and I don't know, this just kind of started off exactly where the last one.
The Reach, isn't that like the Trench?
No, but yes.
Well, I actually kind of find it funny that you don't like it, Ryan. The reason why is because when I read it, I kept thinking of Darkhawk.
What?
Yeah, when I read it, I was like, this feels like Darkhawk to me. It's like, Jaime felt like, Darkhawk to me a little bit with the Scarab and stuff like that. So, yeah, interesting that you don't like it.
I can kind of see that, but I mean, his last series, just...
Well, see, I didn't read the last series. Yeah. Maybe that should be mentioned. This is the first... I had no idea what this new Beetle is about. I've seen him in cartoons, seen him in the books, seen him around in
I like him on
panels.
Batman Brave and the Bold. I mean, I think he's a fun character on there, but I think his main title has not worked as a main character.
I read the book, and... I didn't really want to read it. It's one of those where I read it, and I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool. But with all the other cool 52 stuff that's out there, it's probably not one I want to continue, but I didn't dislike it. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Captain Atom. J.T. Kroll, art by Freddie Williams II. Very, very different take on Captain Atom. He's a
really cool one, too.
Yeah, Captain Atom came over from the Quality and Charlton characters. He was one of the books that got brought over into the DC universe, like the original Blue Beetle, like The Question. Basically, he was one of these guys that they kind of folded into the DC universe back during the old Crisis, and now here he is again, kind of a different take on this character. Military guy, gets godlike powers. He seems a little more kind of possessed in this, as opposed to the regular series. He kind of always knew what he was doing. I don't know if this is just kind of a new take, a new origin, but this falls into that sort of, it wasn't the high, it wasn't a low, it just sort of was.
Yeah.
I'll keep reading for the time being. I thought it was decent. It didn't blow me away, but I thought it was decent. So.
Yeah, I really liked Captain Atom's character.
Again, coming from Justice League International,
Justice League Generation Lost. Right. I mean, building on the character, especially for me, reading all this new stuff, going into this take on him, it didn't blow me away, and it didn't disappoint me, but it's definitely a title that I'll give it, I'll give number 2 a chance, but it's definitely one of those ones that if it doesn't throw me anymore, I'm probably going to cut it, so.
I actually really enjoyed this title. It definitely worked for me. I think part of that had to do with the fact that I could see certain similarities in how they were kind of fusing Captain Atom and Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen.
Well, because that's what, again, going back to Watchmen and being the Charlton characters, Dr. Manhattan is Captain Atom. That's who the character is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I could kind of see the fact that they were sort of acknowledging the fact that Dr. Manhattan was based on Captain Atom, and they kind of merged a lot of those sort of powers and sense of characters together, and it really worked for me. I'm really kind of excited to see where they go with it.
I think for me, the hardest part of reading for issue 1, on what you were saying, I forgot to mention, was that when he expels his power to a certain point, he gets thrown into the future. Like Captain Atom does, get thrown in the future.
Like in the comics?
Yeah.
And this one?
Not in this one.
In the old ones. Well,
in the old ones.
He has gone through time, but that's not like his main power or anything.
No, it's not his main power, but like when he expels a certain amount of power, he gets thrown into the future.
I'm pretty sure that's all just been sort of weird accidental stuff. I don't.
Yeah,
but you know what's funny? I like that stuff. Like I like the fact that he gets the Justice Society with Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, but
was something that had that.
Even going into some of that a little bit, it's never been sort of a consistent, this is what happens. I mean, he was in the Wildstorm universe for a little bit with the Kingdom Come look, and then he was a bad guy for a little bit, and I mean, his powers are definitely something that have been treated sort of unstable for a while now in terms of different effects from overutilization.
Yeah.
Well, this is a book I actually didn't want to read. You know, I just, you know, if it wasn't for this podcast, I probably would have never picked it up. However, that said, it surprised me. I mean, talk about a superhero book. I mean, you know, this guy is willing to sacrifice his existence to save people. So, and that, you know, like I said, reading this book, I was like, you know, this is why we read superhero books. You know, this is like the character, you know, this guy really wants to help. So in that way, this book really, really surprised me. You know, it was a fun read, and like I said, I even when I started the book too, I'm like, why? I really don't want to read this. And you know, and as you build it up, you go to the end. I'm like, dude, this is I like this dude. This is a cool guy, and this is why we read superhero comics. So I give it a thumbs up. So I really enjoyed it. I want to read the next one. I'm not sure how far we'll read it because there's only so much you can do with what they started in this story arc, at least. So we'll see. Yeah.
All right, moving on to one of the controversial books.
One?
Well, it says, yes, one of the controversial books.
One of the many?
Catwoman #1, written by Jed Winnick, art by Gilliam March. I think we all knew who Catwoman is. Probably don't need to give much of an explanation. This is Catwoman. There is one sort of major plot point in this book that is a very big deviation from more modern DC continuity. I think it's safe to talk about.
I think we could let the cat out of the bag, right?
Hey.
Yeah.
But if you don't want spoilers, maybe go forward a few minutes. Catwoman doesn't know who Batman is.
Which bothers me quite a bit.
To me, that doesn't bother me all that much because I understand they're going back. But it also appears that he doesn't know who Catwoman is. It seems
maybe
unclear.
not yet. Yeah.
It seemed like he knew, considering he knew her last place got torched
that's
again.
true. Yeah,
and,
never mind.
I thought something in there made me think that he didn't know like what her name was or who she really was.
So he knew where she
because they
lived?
kept the masks on.
Yeah. No. He would know. Charlie is right. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay, maybe I just misread some scene or something, but something about it seemed like he was like a lot of the villains. They don't know who their identities yet. I guess they're not like public knowledge. So, but why this book is controversial? I guess we can go into this.
Can I say? Because
you're overly excited about it.
Yeah. Just looking at Brock's face.
No, I have the funniest.
He's gotta be the one to say.
What do you want? Well, now what is it?
Shush. So I've been getting my girlfriend the female titles to read. So one of the she's only read 2. One of the titles she read, and the first one she read was Catwoman. The second after she finished reading it, she calls my cell phone, and I'm here, and she goes, I'm like, hi, and she's like, Catwoman and Batman do it, and I'm like, yeah, and she's like, no, they like really do it, and I'm like, yeah, and she's like, when's the next issue come out? And I'm like, she's like, next week. I'm like, no, next month. She's like, this sucks. She's like, I loved it.
Nice.
So that's the controversy.
Yeah. The controversy is that Batman and Catwoman have sex. My funny response to this was Batman and Catwoman have been having sex for 70 years.
Yeah.
So it's not really a new thing.
Batman Hush.
It is
All-Star Batman and Robin.
It is a little bit of
that
a
was
newer,
Black Canary.
It is a little bit of a newer thing.
Black Canary.
Because the art is by Gilliam March, who draws very sexy women. He did all the cover art and some of the interior on Gotham City Sirens.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic artist. The issues people seem to have with this book is that Catwoman is half clothed in her costume through the first half, And
But
then,
is it surprising? I mean, come on now.
Well,
is it really surprising? Is it?
And then the sort of Catwoman on top. I don't want to say Catwoman raped Batman, but she definitely initiated.
Was a very aggressive pussy.
She definitely initiated that hookup. So yeah,
she has to. Have you seen who Bruce Wayne is as Batman? I mean, he's very aloof.
I mean, my feeling on this, and we'll get onto this and some other stuff as well. And we can all kind of give our spin on this, but comic books these days are written by adults for adults, generally men for men. Not that they can't be,
appeal to women.
Not that they can't appeal to women, of course, and not that in some cases they can be overly sexualized, or they can be misogynist, or just very anti-feminist. In this particular case, there is nothing in this book that shocked me reading it as a longtime Batman and Catwoman fan.
What shocked me was that she didn't know who he was. That shocked me more than anything.
That was
I was like,
right.
Nobody's talking about this? Are you guys crazy?
Well, that's the thing in this issue.
That was the shocker.
Right, them having sex in the last page and okay.
Did any of you read Gotham City Sirens?
They have sex all the times. Yeah.
You finished it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought at the end of that she didn't remember him.
I don't remember anything about that.
I didn't.
Because I think at the end of Gotham City Sirens she doesn't remember who Bruce is.
How?
Something with Zatanna and all this other stuff.
Pretty much what you're saying is now I have to go and read.
You have to go and read Gotham City Sirens. Yeah,
I'll have to go back and look at that. I don't know.
Because the last major story arc was about Poison. I think Poison Ivy was trying to get who Batman was from Catwoman, and the only way to protect that was to erase her memory of who he was.
No,
I guess for me, the whole thing about this book, controversy aside of whether or not they should have gone to that point, is just timeline-wise, I don't really know how this all fits together, since you still kind of get the impression that this is sort of early Batman, Catwoman days. I mean, as Toby said, without her knowing who Bruce is.
Well, that's what they did in Detective Comics. He hasn't fought the Joker 600 times. He's fought him 6 times. So these characters have only been around for 5 years. He hasn't fought Catwoman or Batman or Joker every month, 20 times.
Without the history, it's really hard for me to think of Catwoman being able to twirl Batman around her little finger.
Well,
or him caring that he would show up and check up on her.
But that's the thing. I mean, Batman and Catwoman have had this sort of history almost the entire time these comic books have been coming out. From some of the earlier appearances, they drew a connection between those characters. Mm-hmm. And definitely the retcon and going back, from Batman Year 1 to Year 2 and Long Halloween, I mean, they've made the connection to these characters back to the very beginning of their careers. So
yeah, but even with a lot of those older stories and stuff, Batman still kind of had he knew where to draw the line. She was a crook. He was a hero.
But that hasn't stopped them from having sex all the time.
Yeah, I mean, look at Batman Returns.
It's happened.
Right? It's like boom. It's the thing where they're both perfect for each other, but they can't be together. But you know what? Hey, we can be together every so often.
Right.
Nobody needs to know. Just keep the clothes on or masks on, right?
All right.
I don't know. I guess my point is I have no problem.
No, they kept the masks on.
I have no problem with Batman and Catwoman having sex. I mean, as you guys have said, there are tons of sort of comic history out there where, yes, Batman does have sex.
Now, I am actually interested in seeing the .1 issue that's done by the adult comic book company, because we know the next one's probably the morning after. So I want to see the .1 1.1 issue that the adult comic book publisher puts out of what actually happens. That will be interesting.
Funny stuff.
If they keep
is the shocker really that they had sex, or that Batman seemed to have finished early? So that seems to be the other thing that people are talking about.
Jesus.
Man, those grunts and those little things, just everyone construes it the wrong way.
But with all controversy aside, I actually enjoyed the book. I liked when she was talking to that older lady. The conversation she had with the older lady, where she gets her jobs from. I thought that was really cool. Overall, I actually really, really liked this relaunch book.
That was a lesbian character, right? Don't know.
Female that she was talking to. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I really, really liked it.
I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess going back to whether or not we each liked the book and not just talk about the controversy.
Okay, liked it.
Yeah, no, it was a really cool read. I really liked it, and like I said, I wasn't surprised. I was more surprised that she didn't know who he was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than that, I really enjoyed the book. There was some great stuff in there. Some good
I love
conversation
Gilliam
pieces.
March. I love the artist. He's such a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
right.
It's actually a pretty solid book all around.
Yeah.
I get a couple here we can burn through pretty quick. DC Universe Presents #1 by Paul Jenkins, art by Bernard Chang. This is an anthology book. The first character up is Dead Man. I really like Dead Man. This is just kind of an origin issue, but I thought it was pretty good. I liked it, and especially considering the creative teams, considering who they're going to have on the book coming up, as long as they keep cool characters and pretty decent creative teams. I love anthology titles, so I'll definitely stick with this.
Yeah, this actually reminded me a lot of the last Brave and the Bold installment that ran for 30 issues,
Something like that, yeah.
But I really enjoyed. Yeah, it wasn't necessarily an origin story. It did tell the origin, but it was kind of giving us where Dead Man is now.
Right.
Well,
So,
kind of going back to what I was saying earlier about sort of what I kind of feel the point of this relaunch is and everything, I thought this book was done superbly well. I really liked it. I've already been very familiar with the Dead Man character, and I think they did a very good job of introducing him to both current readers and new readers alike.
Yeah, I'm one of those new readers. I mean, I know of that man, I know of the character, but never read anything with him in it. And I have to say, I really, really enjoyed this book. Make a guy pay. This is like, an asshole through life, and like, no, you gotta live life. You need to see it through these other people's eyes and stuff like that. And, it seems, it has this tool in him. He's starting to see the error of his ways, and I find that really, really cool. And, the end, again, is very cool to see where it goes. I'm thoroughly impressed with this book, actually. Can't wait for the next issue.
Sweet. Coming up next, Green Lantern Corps #1 by Peter Tomasi, art by Fernando Pasarin and Scott Hanna. It's Green Lantern Corps. It's kind of like the same as what we had before. It's Guy and John Stewart this time instead of Kyle, but good book. Fun title. The Green Lantern books have all been firing on all cylinders for years now. So this is no difference. Kind of get a cool little slice of life. Well, remember what I was talking about Justice League #1, where when was the last time you saw Hal Jordan actually like walking on the ground and doing very human things?
Yeah.
There's very much referenced in this where it's about Guy Gardner and John Stewart basically looking for jobs and can't find jobs because they're like, no, you're a Green Lantern, you're going to fuck everything up, or aliens.
my insurance is going to go up because I can't hire you. I thought that was amazing.
Right. So I like that they're sort of really trying to humanize the Green Lantern characters a little bit more. So again, if it says Green Lantern on it, I will buy it until it stops being good, which will probably be never. So.
Do you want to go first, Charlie?
Sure.
Go for it.
I'll go first.
Go.
A very solid read, but I did feel it was probably the weakest of the Lantern titles. But as sort of already brought up, I did like some of the early stuff. I didn't particularly like the whole point of the early stuff with them looking for jobs because it sort of seemed like they just simultaneously went, okay, forget that. We're going to go do something else now.
Well, I think with the crap going on Oa, basically John Stewart and Guy Gardner and Kyle, for that, or all intents and purposes, basically never left Oa anytime.
Yeah.
So this is like, oh crap, we actually have to go back. We have to go back to Earth. We have lives there. This is actually harkens back to a classic. Like in the Green Lantern issue, this harkens back to a classic Green Lantern story of him trying to basically find a job. And he's homeless and he's having trouble. So this is going back to an older Green Lantern style that I think is pretty cool. So.
Well, the one thing that I noticed when I read it was, like you said, it's going back to the old style, which I've liked that they've done in a couple of the titles.
Yeah.
With this, though, the story kind of starts out where we've seen this before, where we've seen Corps members on their little station and they're murdered on the station. Yeah. So it's kind of, we've already seen this, so for me it was a little...
It's pretty graphic too.
It's graphic, but for me it was, I've kind of already seen this, so you better give me something really, really good in the next issue. But, Tomasi's been doing a great job on the book, so I'll keep reading it and I've enjoyed it. But yeah, that was the one thing I was kind of wary about, was the actual blatant repeat of a story.
Yeah, I actually like this book. Yeah, quite fun reading it. I enjoy Guy Gardner trying to get a job. I enjoyed that there's people, that were in the housing committee trying to convince Jon Stewart, going, no, we don't have to do all what's asked. We don't have, as long as we do the city code, we're good to go. And Jon Stewart is almost like disgusted with it, like, what? Are you serious?
Yeah.
We're not going to do all these safety inspections, all of that. I found that really cool. And I thoroughly enjoyed the scene where the two of them were like sitting in space, and they're asking each other, like, "What the hell were we thinking? Not wearing masks? We can't blend in now." All these people are like calling us out, and I thought that was actually really, really cool. Which you can't do with every superhero, so it's cool that they're doing this with them.
Yeah.
No, and I also like that. In the end, to get really excited that something bad happened. It's almost like not, oh no, someone our Green Lanterns died. It's like, we're here, something happened. Like, let's go, let us go. Get us away from Earth. Let us do this mission here. So I thought it was actually kind of a cool read.
That's fun. Green Lantern stuff. I have a feeling all 4 of these books are going to stick around for quite a while because they're all pretty fun. Legion of Superheroes is next by Paul Levitz, art by Francis Portela. I think we basically don't need to say anything we said about this. We didn't say about Legion Lost, number 1. I loved it. For fans only. Totally understand why no one's going to want to read this book.
You know what?
We're ready for another Legion relaunch already.
Yeah, I loved it, but that's because I've been reading the Legion,
right.
And I understand why a lot of people picked up this book and went, what the yeah.
Well, even me. I mean, this does not pick up anywhere. I have no idea what's going on in the book.
Yeah, it's a little jarring at where it picks up.
It's about 6 months after the last Legion series.
Well, no, it's 6 months after the Adventure Comics Legion Academy series and the Legion of Superheroes series. So it's combining the two.
Right. Something big has happened, but we just haven't seen it happen yet. So,
and this is where we get introduced to the fact that time is now no longer
they can't
coherent.
Go back. Well, this is something they did after the original Crisis, that the Legion couldn't come back.
Yeah.
They got rid of Superboy. They got rid of Mon-El because there was no Superboy, so they made him Valor. We're kind of headed back in that direction, but hopefully not quite as drastic, because that 90s kind of reboot Legion, that whole era, the 5 year later era, and all the stuff they did after Crisis makes the whole book confusing as hell. So hopefully we're not.
But that stuff's good too.
Yeah, I do like it, but hopefully we're not heading back for that. So.
Yeah, but I can understand. I'm reading the Booster Gold stuff, and so I'm a little bit more familiar with that whole time thing. Because in Booster Gold, I just read the Legion issues, and the Legion's like, we're not really sure of what happened during that time period. It's like, who is this? We have to go investigate. So it's kind of interesting to see them doing this again. But again, this is a book that a lot of new readers are going to be like, even with all the little stereotypical tags that this is Ultra Boy, this is Shadow Last, this is,
have to continue that.
Even with those, it's still a, huh? I
mean, I'm a pretty big Legion fan. I'm more of a recent convert to being a big Legion fan. I liked a lot of the stuff through the 90s and 2000s, but I was never super, super into it as much as I'm into them now. And even I can't get their names and locations and Power Street.
Yeah, it's hard.
There's a lot.
I covered everything I had to say last week.
You're like, your review of Legion Lost is the same as this book.
All right, well, I guess we'll move on to Nightwing here, written by Kyle Higgins and art by Eddie Barrow. Who, I really like Eddie Barrow's art. I think this guy's a fantastic artist. I'm glad to see he's back on some books now. He did some Teen Titans that I really liked to start on there too. I think we kind of covered some of the Nightwing stuff when we were talking about Batman, but it's Nightwing. I'll buy this book until Devin Grayson comes back to write it. So once she does, I'll stop. But until then, I will buy this book through or possibly what's his face that took over during the 1 year.
Would you stop staring at me like you're trying to convert me to Nightwing?
I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, so bad. Oh, the Bruce Jones run, which came after the 1 year later. That was possibly worse than the Devin Grayson run on Nightwing. But I love
me some
Richard.
Nightwing.
Me some Richard.
Yeah.
So
love me some. If you had said Dick Grayson, you would have been fine. No one would have.
Okay, go ahead. Brock hates it. Go ahead.
I don't hate it. I just never been into Nightwing. I understand the evolution of, Dick Grayson's character from Robin to Nightwing. I understand it's a great progression, so on and so forth. But I've never been a big fan of the Teen Titans. I've never been a big fan of, the Nightwing character. I've tried. There's some interesting stuff that I read when it crossed over with the Batman titles, when the death of Batman and all that stuff. And I like the.
So you didn't. So you didn't read it. So you didn't like it.
I didn't read this one.
Okay, seriously, like we're about to clip an hour soon. So
seriously, I'm trying to at least give some back history on Nightwing that I do know.
Back history on Nightwing of why you don't like it. Got it. Okay. Did you read it? Did you read number 1?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, then why are you talking? Charlie, go ahead.
All in all, I did enjoy the book, but sort of, I guess my general problem with Nightwing is I've always really liked him in Titans and Batman crossovers, but long term, most of his bad guys and stuff just don't resonate with me at all, so I tend to slowly gravitate away from it, and I kind of have a feeling I'm going to again.
He always gets the Batman villains. Like, his villains are the Batman villains.
Well, I have a question. Does each Robin get a particular Batman villain that wants to kill them? Because Jason got Joker.
The only one for Dick Grayson that has ever really been is
Two-Face.
Two-Face.
Yeah. So who's Damian going to get? Mr. Pig?
Oh, that'd be a badass. Well, it should be Roz, right? I mean,
I don't know.
Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah,
And then what
Should
about
be.
Tim? Who does Tim have that's...
Why do they need their own villain?
Tim's more recent would be Captain Boomerang. Because he killed his dad.
It's true.
Well, if that
Yeah, but that
does
doesn't
story
count
still
as a
hold,
Batman
though?
villain.
Yeah, that doesn't count as a
No,
Batman villain.
I think they nixed that story, right? Didn't that get lost in the?
Yeah. Toby, you read Nightwing yet?
Yeah, I read it. Liked it. No, I don't know if I liked it, actually. I take that back.
So wait a second, you're giving me shit, and all these Nightwing fans are sitting here going, it was okay.
No. Here's the thing. I'm a big Nightwing
Hey, at
fan.
least they read it.
Yeah, so I'm a big Nightwing fan. Reading this book, it's his first time back in the costume in a long time. First of all, reading it was kind of interesting because, here's this guy that wants to kill Dick Grayson, and when I started reading it, I thought, oh, he's out to get Nightwing, but then he puts on a costume. And, the dude still wants to kill Dick and doesn't know it's Nightwing. So I'm like, wait, what the hell? This is kind of weird. Not the greatest start, but, I love the character. We'll continue reading it. And we'll see where it goes.
Let's move on to the biggest controversy in the entire 52. Hold on. Let me get this started.
Wait for it.
So the book is called Red Hood and the Outlaws by Scott Lobdell and Kenneth Rocafort. Now, this controversy, right, I have a very strong feeling about this. They gave Roy Harper back his arm. Of all the things they could do in the Wait, that's the wrong controversy. I'm sorry. So, Red Hood and the Outlaws.
It's a great title for a 7-year-old girl.
Ah, Jesus. Red Hood and the Outlaws is an interesting title. It is Red Hood, who
obviously
is previous Robin, right? Correct. Arsenal, or Red Robin, or Red Arrow, or
Arsenal.
Speedy.
Arsenal.
He has 10,000 names. Roy Harper, former sidekick of Green Arrow.
The guy wears all red except for a black baseball cap.
All right, and Starfire, former Teen Titan. The controversy around this book arises with Starfire's general lack of clothing and wanting to have sex with people.
How is this out of the ordinary for her?
This is my sort of... I've debated this at length online and on Twitter, and we talked about this briefly on the Geek Box, and it's a lot of the Bleeding Cool. And
You were livid when I came in.
DC
you were
Women-
you were foaming at the mouth.
the DC Women Kicking Ass Tumblr and on The Beat. Did I say Bleeding Cool yet? And basically everywhere I have gone to spread my message of, this is really not a different take of Starfire. It's pretty much the same version that's always been there. In fact, to the point where I am ready to start digging through all my Teen Titan issues, all my recent issues of 52 and the Animal Man mini and all the stuff that she's been in recently to show that, this is not a big variation on this character. So Starfire in this comic book doesn't wear a lot of clothing. Starfire hasn't worn a lot of clothing since 1980.
She just hasn't been drawn by Rocafort before.
Exactly.
It's just that's
what
truth
it
be
is.
out.
Right. I mean, if she, I swear she was in a couple of issues. Wasn't she in a couple of issues of Superman, Batman, the Turner ones? Wasn't she in?
I think so.
Was she in the Supergirl arc?
Yeah, I think so for a brief minute. Yeah.
I think she was in the Public Enemies.
Or Public Enemies. I'm sorry. Well, anyway, I mean, I've seen Starfire drawn by a whole bunch of people that draw women better than George Perez, let's put it that way, right? This is a character that clothing is extremely optional. That's part of her backstory. She doesn't understand why humans wear them. Is she a little more sexual in this book than previous appearances? Yes. Is it that far of a deviation from the character? No. Does that make her a slut? No. Does that make Scott Lobdell, the writer, a misogynist? No. Does it make the people that like this comic book and want to read this comic book misogynist and they hate women because we think all women are sluts? No. If you think that is true, you should be posting on the internet with all these other people that think this is true. As far as actual, real, live human beings that have bought this book, most people I've talked to have enjoyed it. Very few came out, in fact, almost none came out and said anything about this, about Starfire being a total slut. Most people I've talked to have been like, yeah, it's just the way she's always been written.
Yeah.
So, you guys, I've said my piece. I will now never talk about this again.
Yeah, right.
The floor has it. No, I'm done. This has been like the last 2 weeks of my life or 3 weeks of my life have been about discussing Red Hood and just trying to fight the negativity that this
Yeah, I think
book
there's a
has.
Titans issue where she's sunbathing and she's topless, and there's a neighbor's kid gawks at her.
Yeah.
That's like Titans number one.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's number one, but she basically figures it out. Oh, well, I'll have him have a look. Oh, I'll make his day. It was not a big deal. Nobody said a thing about that.
And,
So-
I mean, it was either 52 or the 52 Aftermath stuff where they were talking with, she was in space with Animal Man, and she's like, well, do you want to have sex or what? He's like, what? I got a wife. I can't do this. She's like, yeah, but we're never getting back. What's it matter? This is the way this character is.
Well, the thing is the controversy behind this is the fact that some blogging female gave her 7-year-old daughter a copy of this book to read.
Pages from the comic out of context.
Out of context.
Who was a very big Starfire fan of
very big
the Teen Titans.
The Teen Titans,
Right.
the kids
Right.
cartoon
let's
show.
be fair. The kid was a fan of the Teen Titans cartoon, though.
Yeah, the cartoon show.
And not
which is-
even the new one. It was the one before Young Justice.
It's the one
Yeah.
that's for kids. This stuff has been changed for kids. Perfect example of this is Disney. Disney does this all the time.
Sure.
And especially Hunchback of Notre Dame. I'm not going to give my 7-year-old kid a copy of Hunchback of Notre Dame. Well, let him watch the, Disney movie. But a lot of this stuff is you're giving your kid something that's the established norm.
Right.
What your kid enjoys is not the established norm.
Right.
So the controversy shouldn't be the fact that, oh my God, she's a slut and she's not wearing anything. That's not the controversy. The controversy should be the fact that this mother's a stupid parent.
Yeah.
So, I understand your whole ranting on the internet and people are morons and they are. Stupidity is a sexually transmitted disease. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was great. And, you explained to me the scene where she supposedly forgets, but she doesn't. She's just ignoring it. She just wants
Right.
to get to having sex.
Right.
Right? So
Well,
she's
that's
like,
an
yeah,
interesting.
no.
No, that's an interesting scene, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's referencing to the Titans.
Yeah.
Right.
So here's the question, though. In the Titans book, is Red Robin really building a new team of a Titans that didn't have any history, or was there any history where the Titans do exist, or even if they just exist as a group of friends?
Well,
because it is a reference to it.
How I read that scene, so for those that haven't read the book yet, they basically ask Starfire, she's like, oh, Starfire can't even tell two humans apart. She doesn't care about anyone. And they reference back, oh, do you remember any of the Teen Titans? She's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I read that scene as her kind of wanting to move past them. Whatever happened,
Yeah.
she doesn't want to be part of the team anymore. She's like, yeah, I'm just kind of done with this. A lot of people took that to that she's a stupid, ditzy, blonde bimbo that doesn't remember stuff. And it's like, you guys, I don't know what the hell book you're reading, but you're reading way too far into this.
Well, I mean, to sort of put it bluntly, they didn't really explain it well for new readers there, what she meant by that or didn't mean by that. And you can debate for hours on end on, did she mean this, did she mean that?
Which I have.
Yes, you have. But, I mean, to me, I enjoyed the book. I didn't really have any problem with it. It did seem a little... I'm very much into those sort of connections between characters, and as we've kind of talked about, the connection between Black Canary and Oracle, the connection even between Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon and that kind of stuff. So the fact that they kind of acknowledged the fact that she was part of this team in the past, I liked, but it makes me want to know why the connection got broken there.
Yeah.
I kind of want that history.
Well, you noticed it because you just finished reading it again.
Yeah.
In actual comic book form.
All right.
You saw at the end, it doesn't say to be continued.
Right. It says to be explained.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. So that was a funny,
But
funny little.
As a side note to this, how many pre-orders did you get on that Starfire statue that's coming out soon?
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
Wonder why.
Yeah. I actually really like the book. I've been a big fan of Rockeford's art for a while now, and yeah, he draws very beautiful women. Where I think this controversy is really coming out of from.
Yeah.
Also, I like the team, and I'm a little iffy on Jason now.
Well, this is kind of one thing I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Jason Todd and Red Arrow, or Arsenal, whatever they call him in this.
Arsenal.
These are characters that both, I think people don't want to realize how violent these characters have been. Arsenal was called Arsenal back in the 90s, and he had guns. You don't have guns and not shoot people with them. Like he bow and arrows a few people right in the face in this comic book, and it's like, yeah, these are clearly anti-heroes. They're very much the Punisher style, and especially what they would do with Jason Todd. And Starfire, if she wants to dismiss herself from humanity, she's going to be the first one in line to start frying people alive because she comes from a warrior race. So from a violence level, I have no problem with this book because it makes sense for all the characters.
And it's a fun action book.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole
fun.
breakout is really cool. I mean, the way the characters interact is kind of cool. It's
cool.
a fun team. But my Jason Todd thing is, well, first of all, I was mad that they didn't keep the Batman history like they said, or kind of said they would. Now,
well, they did.
Well, the whole Birds of Prey thing, and then the Selena thing, and then there's a lot of it. But
he was still Robin. I mean,
no. That's not my issue with it. If they were gonna change it, why couldn't they make Jason Todd the coolest and best Batman villain of all time? I mean, here's a guy that felt Batman, failed him. He could have been the coolest damn villain to come back ever. I mean, if you're gonna bring him back, and this is kind of the problem I had when they brought him back in the last universe, it's like this guy should be the one that's able to take down Batman completely, on a psychological level and on a
I mean, that's how Judd Winnick kind of wrote that first.
And that's how I liked it.
Yeah.
That's how, and I wish now it's kind of in a limbo phase where he exists, but. I kind of wanted Judd Winnick to, or whoever would continue that story to keep pushing forward with that. I mean, Jason Todd could have been a really, really, really cool villain in DC Universe.
I think the problem is kind of like Bucky and kind of like Winter Soldier. It's hard to keep the former hero as a pure villain.
Yeah.
I think that's the difficult they find themselves in, is that they can make books based off these characters, and even when you get characters like Deathstroke having his own title, he tends to do still some heroic stuff. It's hard to have a book based strictly on a villain.
Well, at least for me, I don't read any of the I've never got into the Red Hood stuff. The only stuff I've seen him in is his stuff during Countdown, when he was going around the search for Ray Palmer.
Yeah.
And he was, really kind of gruff and, going against everybody's kind
You
of...
never read Under the Hood?
No.
That was a good book.
Yeah,
That was a really
Under
good book.
the Hood
That's a
was
really
good.
book.
It was good?
Yeah, I mean, here's my thing. I don't like... it's not like that I dislike Jason in this. It's just like, if you're gonna have a chance at it to push the envelope, why not do it? But that's, maybe my own little fantasies about making this character really cool.
Well,
but I do like, to take the half year. So it's not that I dislike it, yeah.
And to sort of go back to sort of those changes with Jason, I think part of the nice thing about Under the Hood is he had a very specific, clear purpose on what he was trying to accomplish, how he was trying to accomplish it. And as Brock brought up, since then he's kind of popped up here and there with his motivations and stuff have been very surface level. He hasn't really shown the same level of even planning and stuff, even though they did do the Red Hood, what was it called? The one where they filled in his history, the Lost Days.
Yeah, I actually really want to read that.
Yeah, that was actually really good. And again, it goes back to sort of showing exactly what makes this a strong character and what makes him as deadly as he is. And that's sort of the closest glimpse I've had since Under the Hood. And The Lost Days was also written by Judd Winnick.
Yeah.
and kind of goes back to that core aspect of the character again.
Well, I think it was just Winnick's idea to even bring him back. I mean, that was wasn't it that his?
Well, it came from the Jeff Loeb Hush.
Yeah.
The Hush, which they didn't pull the trigger on.
Didn't
though.
pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Well, no,
that would
but-
have been cooler if they'd done that. Yeah,
but-
way better.
Yeah, the fact of the matter there is it just a lot of it has to do with the fact that when they kind of shied away from it on Hush, it got the fan base going nuts,
Yeah.
sort of
Which
clamoring
actually almost
for his
took away
return.
the shine from the Winnick run, because if they'd done it in the Hush one, that would have been crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, and I completely agree. Part of the problem with Under the Hood is, I swear, any mystery character that came up after Hush for like the next 5 years was a very natural, easy assumption to go, that could be Jason Todd.
Yeah, it would have been a big surprise in Hush.
I was a little thrown off because I've been reading Batman and Robin, and Jason in that has that new. Isn't that the same character?
Yeah, but
But it's So for me, reading, this countdown Jason, and then reading this Batman and Robin Jason, and then this, everything is supposed to kind of stay the same, and not having the knowledge of Under the Red Hood,
Sure.
I can understand where people are like, huh? Because he's one way and then another, and there's no clear.
Well, it looks like they sort of wrote out the Grant Morrison Red Hood stuff. So.
Okay.
Up next, Supergirl by Michael Crean and Mike Johnson, who I believe were writers on Smallville, and they did a lot of Superman, Batman stuff. Art by Mahmoud Asar. I actually really like this guy's art. I really like this guy's art, and I really like the new Supergirl costume design. Basically, Supergirl, day one, she just landed on Earth, speaks a little bit of, doesn't speak any English or human, only speaks Kryptonian. And kind of, not really an origin, but kind of just sort of Anchor Girl first day on Earth. I like, this is a very different take on Supergirl than we've had previously, but I liked it.
You recommended it, so I went back and tried it out. It didn't completely and utterly wow me, but it was entertaining. I felt like I've seen this story before with her, especially with Superman and Batman, the Supergirl stuff that came in there. It really makes me want to root for a Superwoman to come back, but, hey, that's just me. But yeah, artwork's great. Story, we'll see where it goes. But, it didn't wow me enough to say I gotta get this. So,
For me, it's, as Brock said, I've read this sort of origin-esque story in multiple forms now, and ironically, I've enjoyed it in most forms where I've read it, so I'm going to read this one as well. But for me, it's when you get past this initial landing and origin, and that's really going to be where it sort of decides if this new take can stand on its own or not.
Well, I really liked it. I like the new design of the costume also. But does it seem like whenever you read an important Supergirl story, it's always her origin? Like, didn't we just read the Michael Turner one not too long ago? It was a Jeff Loeb, right?
Yeah.
Then before that was like another retake on her. It's like almost every time Supergirl, it's a relaunch almost. But I haven't made my mind up on the book yet. I gotta keep reading. The first book is very much action paced.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of filler yet. So we'll see where it goes. Yeah.
All right, and the last of week 3, we're halfway done, was Wonder Woman #1. I thought this book was amazing. I thought this felt like a new take on the Sandman mythos within the DC universe. It was myth. It was legend. I actually liked Cliff Chiang's art. Oh yeah, written by Brian Azzarello as well, who's a fantastic writer.
Yeah.
Cliff Chiang's a really good artist. The art, I feel, fit the story despite being, I don't want to say cartoony, but I was half expecting the art to be maybe a little bit darker, but I think it worked for the book. Very bloody, very gory, but it was really cool. If we have a Vertigo superhero, this is it. Brock, this sounds like this would be your favorite book of all time. Explain to me why it's not.
Oh, this book was complete and utter garbage.
You are the worst person.
I love Brian Azzarello as a writer. He's done some amazing stuff. His 100 Bullets was awesome.
Best thing ever.
But
really explain, because I literally do not understand how you cannot like this book.
well, the thing is like I wanted to jump on Wonder Woman. Everyone wants to jump on Wonder Woman. I thought this would be a good jumping on point for me for Wonder Woman because, I tried jumping on after issue 600 with Straczynski's run, and that disappointed.
Yeah.
I mean, I read 4 issues after 600, and I couldn't stand it. I thought it was just whatever. No real concise reason for me to read it anymore.
Yeah.
This one, to me, it was not. It didn't hold up muster. I don't see any of Brian Azzarello's Vertigo-esque style in this. All I see is Zeus banged a human. She's pregnant, and everyone wants to go after her. Boring. It's boring. I'm like, hold on. I have Greek tattoos.
I know.
All over me. So
That's
for me,
why.
it's one of those things where, like, this is something that should grab me. This is something that should interest me, and it doesn't, because Wonder Woman, I think, as of recently, they've just focused on either starting or, like, that first issue or in issue 600, where we get that kind of preview of this new Wonder Woman, and we get the muse or whatever, the blind lady, the seer. You know, I was interested. I was like, ooh, this is mysterious. Ooh, this is, cool. We're going to dive into some stuff. And it ended up just kind of being campy. And I know people are going to probably yell at me, but like Jason and the Argonauts kind of claymation, kind of blah stuff. And don't get me wrong, it's a cult classic. At the time, it was an amazing thing. But looking at it now, it just didn't work for me. And I was honestly sitting there going, great, is what's his name from Human Target going to jump out in this book with the artwork? The artwork did not fit this book at all. It was just, for me, it was just...
was the guy that did the art on Human Target, right?
I know.
Yeah.
That's why I was expecting, Chase, what's his name? What's his name? Chase, whatever.
Whoa.
Jeez.
Yeah, I forget the guess.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about.
I was expecting him to pop out from somewhere. To me, it didn't really give us very much information except that Zeus is a man or a womanizer. That's it.
He's a man.
He's a man. He's a womanizer. He bangs humans. That's it. There's nothing in this story. Oh, let me teleport you away to get Diana to come. It really, that's how we get introduced to Wonder Woman in this universe, is a teleportation. I preferred Wonder Woman in Justice League Dark. Her introduction in that versus this.
Does she even have a line in that?
Yeah, she's got a couple lines in
one
that.
line?
You haven't even read it.
Yes, I have.
You read it?
Yes.
Wow, I'm amazed.
I've read all of them.
But yeah, this book, complete and utter disappointment for me. Like, yeah, I'm sorry if that offends everyone in existence.
Charlie, you want to bring some...
And Raffi, I apologize if you're listening to this, but I'm sorry.
I think he's already got a hit list going on you.
Yeah, I'm like on top of this now.
Assassins waiting for you in your home.
I mean, the way I kind of look at it is it was a very action story, a very interesting story to me. Like Brock in a lot of ways, I like a lot of the old mythology and that kind of stuff. So for me, I can actually see it going either way. Either it will incorporate enough of the mythology that it's going to just drag me into it completely and I'll love it to death, or it will get overly simplistic and I'll lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so when I was reading it, I couldn't stop helping to think that it reads like Xena and Gabrielle from Xena Warrior Princess. You know, that girl that got pregnant by Zeus. To me, feels like Gabrielle. And here comes, Wonder Woman. She feels very Xena-ish in this one. So, I had to smile about this. I like the take on the was it the centaurs?
Yeah.
When they go cut up the horses. That was really kind of a cool idea. I like the villain in this a lot. That was really cool. The villain really grabbed me. Like Brock, though, I mean, for some reason, Wonder Woman, I know she has a Greek background, but when I think of Wonder Woman, I don't always think, Greek mythology for some reason.
Right.
It just, to me, the two never really went together, even though they are. Even though, that's her history. But when I think of Wonder Woman, I don't think Zeus. I don't think those kind of things. So it's weird, reading it, in that context.
Well, she's always gone back and forth between the super religious stuff that George Perez did to just the basic superheroes.
And I like the basic superhero Wonder Woman a little better. But I did like this book quite a bit, especially when I finished it. I was like, dude, this is a cool take. It's been a while since we've seen Wonder Woman kick ass like this. I mean, this is an action-packed book, and she's got some cool moves in this one. No, I actually really enjoyed it. Yeah, I'm actually happy to see where it goes.
Well, back to her kind of her Greek, background stuff. It's kind of like having to go back and look at Greek mythology and Roman mythology because there's so many similarities, but things are different.
Sure.
In a sense. So for Wonder Woman, it's a mix of Greek and a little Roman and this Amazon thing. So she has this blend of 3 different mythos, and then on top of that, you ice superhero. So there's a lot of stuff to work with, but when you focus on one, you have to kind of make it very, very true to what that is. You can't, kind of just go, oh yeah, and then Ares came down and they had sex, or this happened and this happened. It's for me. I was completely and utterly. I felt most people would be completely and utterly lost flipping the page, and you have some dude. They're in a cabin, and it's a chick in a shirt in her underwear, which that seemed to be a theme in this 52 was women in their underwear. Every week had a woman in her underwear.
So you're complaining?
I'm not complaining. I'm just saying. They point out the fact that Starfire is a slut, but the fact that all these women are scantily clad and there's the magic underwear and Batwoman.
Welcome to comic books.
Yeah.
Well, to add on to this, I'm glad they kind of went away from the political Wonder Woman. For a while there, the Wonder Woman books felt very political. She's like a political leader and all this stuff, which, I didn't enjoy in this book. It was a little too much. You had the Greek mythology, you had the superhero stuff, and then she's a political leader. For me, it was a little too much. Yeah. I kind of liked it to going back to a pure, just action-based book almost. In this one, something happens and she's kicking ass. Not kissing, kicking. But, enjoyed it. And I'm surprised and looking forward to where it goes.
All right, here's week 4. Now we really have to start hauling some ass. So let's be quick about these here. All-Star Western, number 1 by Justin Gray, Jubin Palmiotti, by art and cover by Morita? I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. Don't know who this guy is, but he's a damn good artist. I actually really liked the Jonah Hex book, Outlaw Gunslinger from the West, kind of deformed face, ignore the movie. But yeah, this was
the pilot episode for the TV show?
Exactly. But I did like the ongoing book, and I was kind of worried they're going to tie this into the more DC titles and more to the DC universe, but I'll be damned, that was a fantastic first issue. I thought it was one of the best first issues.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
I read it, and I really enjoyed it because it was a long read. This was the first read in the 52 that...
Well, it is. I believe that it was double-sized.
It was double-sized.
I believe they're going to have backups in future issues.
But it was double-sized, but the content itself was... I actually read that. It took me 12 minutes, 15 minutes to read this book, when I normally breeze through a comic in 6 to 8 minutes. But this was a nice read. But I read it and I was like, oh, this is from Hell in Gotham, which is the basic story of it. But I enjoyed it, and it was kind of nice to see the little back history, especially with what Scott Snyder established with Gates of Gotham, where we kind of see these families starting. So here we kind of get the same thing where we have, even more kind of history to Gotham going on. Highly recommend that Gates of Gotham series to people. But yeah, I really enjoyed All-Star Western, and I haven't been reading any of the Jonah Hex stuff prior, so...
You should.
I know. It's on the list, Charlie, and the list is really long.
Yes, I know all about lists. Yeah, I really loved the All-Star Western book. It was one of, this last week, there were a couple of things that just really stood out to me, but this book just blew me away from start to finish, and I've always been a big Jonah Hex fan, and I sort of talking about the old Gotham history with all the families and all that. I think that's something they've been really delving into with a lot of different content now, and it's always really interesting to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to not go out of context too far here, did you guys read about the blog post about this one kid? He did plastic surgery to look like Superman.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, did you guys read the comments? There's one guy who's like, I'll be worried if some guy does plastic surgery to look like Jonah Hex. Yeah, so I haven't read the book yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Cool.
Yep.
Aquaman number 1 by Jeff Johns, Ivan Rice, and Joe Prado. Creative team behind Blackest Night. Aquaman, yes. 3/4 of the book is a "so don't you talk to fish" joke, and I'm glad they kind of got that out of the way first. I really hope Jeff Johns can do to Aquaman what he's done to Green Lantern and kind of what he's done to Flash, and put Aquaman sort of back on the map. I like this first issue. It was good. The Trench is sort of the big villains coming up. It's this underwater race that. Well, and here's something I thought was interesting. it really looks like Aquaman's going to take place almost entirely on land, which I think getting Wonder Woman down from the heavens, getting Aquaman onto land, getting Wonder Woman off Paradise Island, getting the Green Lanterns off of Oa and onto Earth, I think this is a concentrated effort from DC to ground their heroes, and I really think it's going to work.
Marvel?
Well,
exactly.
you and I have talked about this event fatigue, where we get constant back event books where, oh, they're off doing this, oh, they're off doing this, oh, they're off doing this. So we don't get those grounded stories, and I think, yes, Aquaman being on land. But to me, the Aquaman book stood out because it was the funniest book I've read in the 52, with the Smallville reference in the beginning, with the joke about the "Don't you need a glass of water?" And then there's the fish and chips and the talking to fish. I mean, this book was filled with just little quibs for, all the, super fans of Aquaman, and for all the people that are, kind of know who he is. But I really enjoyed this first one, and it carries over from what happened in Brightest Day, which is nice to kind of see Aquaman, like and you said, and Mera grounded, like they're in a relationship. There's things going on, but there's this something under the surface that's coming up. So it's really, really good. I think Johns did a really good job, and I'd like to see how well it continues. But Charlie, you're itching to talk about it.
I'm
so
always
go for
itching
it,
to talk about it.
Because it's Johns.
Yeah, this actually is almost by definition one of the things I think Johns does amazingly well for any character he touches. He tends to figure out some way to focus on all the negative things people have to say about a character, hold up a mirror to it, and either figure out ways to dismiss it or explain it or get past it. So he kind of, from the get-go on Green Lantern, he kind of addressed the whole weakness in the color yellow and the gray streaks, and he manages to sort of address all this stuff in a nice little bow and then move past it to tell awesome stories. And for something, as you said, a book with just very little content in terms of moving the story forward, it had some excellent, memorable scenes in it that just you keep kind of going back to. And the more I think about it, the more I think this book is one of my favorite books from the relaunch, just because I can do that. I can constantly think about this book and something that happened in this book, and that's saying something, because it's not necessarily just, oh, well, that scene was awesome. It's just
This was a good intro build-up book that kind of, like you said, throws all the cards out on the table and says, this is Aquaman. You might think he sucks. The Big Bang Theory might thinks he sucks.
Yeah, another reason why that show is awful.
Right there. Whatever.
God, that show's the worst show ever.
You just don't want to watch it because you're afraid you're it.
No, I'm afraid that the show's worse than I somehow imagine.
Yeah, you're weird. Anyway, but yeah, no, I think Johns did us a really, really good job with this, and it's definitely one people should be picking up.
Well, Ryan, me and you were talking about this once, and when I mentioned, I feel like Jeff Johns is a fanboy writer, but not in a bad sense. Like, I mean that as a complete compliment. If someone loves comic books, and looks at, characters are either, got messed up over history or something like that, he's a king of addressing all the fanboy questions.
Yeah.
And like Charlie says,
trying to get rid of it.
Either get rid of it, fix it, explain it, whatever it is. But he thinks of them. He thinks like a fan. I'm sure there's people out there that are Aquaman fans, and they're like, man, I wish there weren't all these jokes around him. Oh man, I wish this wasn't like this, man. If they could just make him cool again. And here comes Jeff Johns and goes, all right, let's tackle this. It's not, he doesn't fear it. It's not like there's these issues. Well, let me do a cool story so they forget about it. It's not that. It's like, you know what? Let's take these issues and see what's wrong with them, and let's fix them. Which makes, why Jeff Johns is so special in the comic book community right now.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm really looking forward to the next book. I didn't get a lot out of the first issue. Again, it's the first chapter. We don't know where the book is heading yet. So I'm looking forward to it.
Moving on to Batman Dark Knight. It actually says written by David Fincher, but it was actually written by David Finch and Paul Jenkins. Art by David Finch and Richard Friend, Richard Friend is one of Jim Lee's guys, right?
Yes, he's an inker.
Yeah, I was going to say, because damn, his art looks like Jim Lee. And I hate to say this, I do not remember anything about this book.
Honestly, the Dark Knight, the miniseries, because it's now a miniseries.
Right.
That came out
I like
before
that.
this. It was the first 3 issues, like the first 2-3 issues were good, and then it went. I don't know where it went.
But for this, I read it. I remember thinking the art was really good. I totally do not remember what happened in this book.
This book is.
So I don't know what that says.
It's really beautiful to look at, but yeah, not really much.
And we don't have a copy in the store, and I think Charlie and Toby are like, we don't remember what happened in this book either.
Yeah, it's weird.
I remember a scene. I remember when like Bruce has to get to like some kind of gala, and he shoots something, and he like glides down to the balcony and puts on his.
Yeah, he changes, and then he goes to the gala, and there's that chick there. But then there's also the.
I do remember. I remember
guy.
the end. Can I say it?
Yeah,
Please say the end.
He fights the One Face.
Oh, that's
one?
Yeah,
right.
like don't call me Two Face, call me One Face.
Oh, that's right.
That's right. Okay, wow. Yeah, I totally blocked on that. Yeah, we have a big giant monster Two-Face. I don't know what I feel about that, but
Yeah, me
this is
neither.
sort of a.
Oh yeah, that's
I looked at
right.
that and went.
Like a giant hulkish kind
Yeah,
of Two-Face.
it's like a Two-Face on Arkham Asylum.
Bane Two-Face.
Joker,
The Titan serum.
Yeah.
He's on the Titan
Yeah.
serum.
Right. You know what'd be funny? If that's what they're actually doing. I wouldn't be surprised if they're actually using something from the game to tie into that. That actually would be
That
kinda
actually
funny.
would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's immediately what sprang to mind with that whole story. Now that I actually remember it,
But what a
was going
weird
back
thing!
to
Like
Arkham
it
Asylum.
just seemed like that kind of didn't stand out where I felt the other bat books stood out.
I think.
I think that's part of the problem. Is we've literally read all these different Bat books over the past month, and there's certain things that really stand out with the whole Joker face-off thing, and the just most of them had these really big, good, shocking endings you could kind of latch onto. Where the ending of this book, as I said, kind of just made me go, "Oh, so they're pulling a Arkham Asylum."
Yeah. Oh wait, this one had the controversy over the Batty Boy.
Huh?
Oh, whatever. That's not.
That it's a Jamaican.
Yeah, whatever. No one
It's
cares.
a Jamaican derogatory term to people or
No one
something.
cares.
All right, say we move on.
Blackhawk is next by Mike Costa and Ken Lashley. You know, I actually kind of liked this. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I was looking at Men at War, which is the book next to it. Blackhawks was okay. It's kind of like a modern day military group. I really liked Lady Blackhawk, who was in the Birds of Prey over the last handful of years. The original Blackhawks were like a World War II fighting force, who all died or left. This was okay.
Where is Lady Blackhawk?
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what? I read this kind of thinking it was the Team 7 kind of feel from Wildstorm and stuff. I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that like completely jumped out and said this is an amazing book, and it wasn't something that said this book sucked. It was a fair story that we got. I mean, we're thrown right into action in this book, and then it kind of levels through, and then we get kind of a teaser for the end of it, and I thought it was a well-rounded, kind of first issue. It's not, something that's grandiose, but I enjoyed it. It was a fair story. Charlie?
I was trying to put my finger on exactly what this book reminded me of because I did really enjoy it. And it just hit me. To me, it's basically a DC G.I. Joe. Maybe a little more international.
Like
but
a Black Ops G.I. Joe?
Yeah, exactly.
Or G.I. Joe, the new film?
It's a DC G.I. Joe book, and it actually worked for me.
That's exactly what it is.
Go Blackhawks.
I liked it. Just purely action-based book.
Yeah.
I really liked the scene when she falls out of, the plane and they're saying, oh, if you hit the water, you're going to die just because of how far and how fast you're falling. And she starts shooting in the water. I thought that was kind of a cool scene. Not too memorable yet. Like I said, I'm kind of questioning where is Lady Blackhawk in all of this. Would have been cool if she was on this team, since they took apart the Birds of Prey. Another hit there. But, yeah, I'm actually looking forward to the next book in this and see where it goes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, up next is Flash, written and drawn by Francis Manipool, who did art on the previous run in The Flash. Again, this falls under the category of I liked it. I kind of want to see where it's going. I want more. Huge Flash fan. Huge fan of Jeff Johns and kind of I like Wally, but I like Barry as well, so I'm happy to see Barry back. I do wish we knew where Wally West was, the other Flash, but I'm willing to give Barry his time to kind of figure out what they want to do with him. I like this issue. It was pretty good. I thought Francis Manapul's art worked for me more in this than it did on the first run. He has a bit of a different art style.
On the last run.
I'm sorry, the last run he did. I thought this art looked a little bit cleaner. It looked a little more action-y. It worked a little bit better for me. And overall, I'm okay with the changes to Flash in this series.
For me, Flash, I really enjoy Flash in all the crossover titles. And I really enjoy Flash when he's not the main character in the book. I didn't really care for the last Flash installment. To me, it just was... All it was the whole thing should have just been called Road to Flashpoint.
It was sort of directionless.
And then we get to this, and it's kind of a... what Flashpoint left us was a Flash that's talking to Bruce, and then what we get in this is not the same Barry Allen that we were left with at the end of Flashpoint 5. And that is our first introduction to this world. Their interaction. I did not get... I had a feeling for that Flash when I read Flashpoint 5. I did not...
It's like 2 pages.
Yeah, but the interaction between those two characters is very, very powerful in that.
Yeah.
I did not get any feeling of that Flash, any feeling of that Barry Allen. In this, all I got was another, am I on the road to Flashpoint 2?
Huh.
So, for me... I'll keep reading it, but I really am not impressed.
Here's what I wonder. I wonder, just because of the way this is written, I wonder if Manapul actually had a little more to do with the writing of the last Flash series, if Johns is really doing the whole thing. Because there were some scenes that felt very similar to the last Flashpoint.
Yeah.
I see Toby's flipping through the book, and he actually flipped by one of my favorite pages. What I do like about this book specifically is the panel layouts. Manapul, when you're both the writer and artist, you can actually kind of do some of the stuff in your head that you wouldn't think about if you were just the writer. And there's some pretty cool panels in there that are laid out just different than your standard square boxes.
Yeah, but his paneling does not impress me as much as in Batwoman.
Williams. But J.H. Williams is a master of that.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where let me see. There's the opening thing in this book where we get the little kind of credits rolling. The thing comes out, and then all it is like a splash page of. That. Just so you know, this is the DC Comics proudly presenting the Flash. I really didn't like this.
I actually kind of like that page.
I didn't really like it at all. But again,
this is not what's special. What's special is pages like this.
This beautiful comic book that our listeners can see.
This is awesome right here. It's the sequencing, right?
Yeah.
Toby's looking at a couple pages here. There's a great shot specifically where the Flash is falling, and he falls through these panels to hit the water below.
Yeah,
and
that was a great...
And the way the panels follow the character as he's falling, you can't really explain it. It's something you have to really see.
Yeah, and I also really, really like this page I'm holding up right now, and for the everybody that's listening, it's where Wally is investigating. Barry, I'm sorry. Barry's investigating, and it's cool because, it's one page. You seem to know that it's taken all night, and it's got a shot of the coffee pot. It's got a shot of him downloading stuff, and it's just a really cool sequence.
No, his sequencing is the sequences he does good, but that splash page to say proudly persists, it didn't grab me. It's supposed to grab you, and it didn't grab me. But we'll see. I mean, I haven't really been impressed with the Flash in the past few years. Like I said, in his own books, in other titles, he's great. But Charlie, please, something else besides my voice.
Okay. So for me, I was actually a little worried about the Flash book, especially because everybody, I'm sure, already knows how big a fan I am of Jeff Johns. And when he was sort of leaving the book after bringing Barry back, all I've gotten since Barry's been back is weird, timey-wimey storylines that, as you said, should have all been just the road to Flashpoint. I haven't really gotten what I was excited to see with Barry coming back, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that I think it's really cool that he's a crime scene analyst, that he investigates the crime, figures out who the bad guy is, and then can sort of take care of it himself if the police aren't able. Mm-hmm. So for me, this book was sort of a very, very refreshing get back to basics of the Barry Allen character. You get to see him investigating. You get to see him being the Flash. They did a very good job of bringing in a lot of those supporting characters and stuff that were around, even throughout Flashpoint, with some of the tie-ins like the Kid Flash stuff. But, I mean, for me, I have a hard time judging on how well my attachment to some of these characters have kind of grown from all the other issues versus if I were just to jump into this book. But I felt like just sitting down and reading this book, it's closer to what I had been wanting the Flash book to be for a while.
Well, so I haven't read Flashpoint yet. I'm waiting for the trade. Does the Flash know he did this? I mean,
No.
he doesn't. Okay, so that's the first question. So, I was thinking that Flash would go in this universe and he's the only one that knows the secret or something like that, But I liked the book. I felt it was kind of like an old school superhero book, just fun superhero stuff, which doesn't happen too often these days anymore, Everybody has issues, it seems. But yeah, I really like this fun kind of take on the old school kind of just like, he's a superhero, he's trying to do what's right, and there's weird, things happening, they're trying to solve it. So, fun read. Looking forward to the next one.
I know a lot of people are mad that they broke up him and Iris, and then he's going out with Petty Spivot. But, whatever. That's fine. Next up is Fury Firestorm #1, written by Ethan Van Sciver and Gail Simone, art by Yurley Sinar. I love Firestorm. I love Ethan Van Sciver. I love Gail Simone. I love Yurley Sinar. This was just okay. I'm actually kind of disappointed. I was really hoping this was going to be one of the big monster hits. Firestorm has had a kind of, the history goes back and forth on who is Firestorm, but in this take it's Ronnie Raymond, who is half of the original Firestorm, and Jason Rush, who is half of the second or third or fourth the more modern Firestorm. And in this, they both become separate Firestorms, and then they merge into a big giant Firestorm. This is a very different take on the whole concept. It's very much an origin story of these characters. I don't know if this is an origin as of like today, or if this is some sort of flashback. I assume this just happened.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay, and I will obviously continue reading because I like Firestorm. But I was hoping for more out of this. I really was.
Firestorm came back into the limelight for me with Brightest Day, duh, and the Blackest Night. Yeah, Blackest Night and Brightest Day. And at the end of Brightest Day, spoiler, they're a ticking time bomb. This character is going to explode and destroy the world. And I'm like, ooh, awesome. This is cool. I want to see this. I want to see more of this. I hope this is something that they don't rejigger.
Totally gone.
And it's totally gone. And this book totally fell flat for me. I mean, I'll flip through issue 2, but I don't have the fury for the Firestorm.
I really disliked what they did in this book, and I think a large part of it for me just had to do with the fact that, given the fact that they took characters I liked, gave them a valid reason to kind of be at each other's throat and Brightest Day and everything, worked for me. The fact that these two characters were at each other's throat in this book, and a lot of it just came across really whiny, and
it was very childish.
Yeah.
Whereas the stuff from Blackest Night and Brightest Day had more emotional depth. This was, you're a jock, I'm a smart kid. It's been done so many times. We've seen so many movies about it. It's boring.
And I didn't really like the whole where two separate firestorms that combined into one big firestorm also didn't really work for me. But to me, the main thing is if you can't make the characters that make up Firestorm be people that I care about, I'm automatically not going to care about Firestorm.
All right.
Yeah.
We get haul even some more ass here. We got 7 more titles, and we're looking at like 20 minutes here before I really have to stop this episode.
We finished the episode. Hey!
Green Lantern New Guardians by Tony Bedard and Tyler Kirkham. I actually really liked it, but for fans only. I don't think if you're not reading Green Lantern or haven't been reading Green Lantern, I don't think you understand what's going on.
Really?
In this book. I thought so.
Really? I'll disagree with you here for a second.
I disagree with that entirely.
It just seems like they just throw all these Lantern colors out there, and you have no idea what's happening. I liked it. Oh, and I don't know who the heck told me this or where I read this, but maybe one of you knows. Did you guys hear people saying like, "Oh, they redid Kyle Rayner's origin. He's a new character. He's just became Green Lantern."
You and I talked about this a little bit, where there was no introduction at the beginning of the book that said this is the past. It was just
but it was the past.
It was the past. But the thing is there was no kind of introduction to that. So when new readers coming to this are going to go, oh, that's supposed to be the new origin because of what's going on with the 52.
Maybe because if the beginning of this book is not 2 minutes after all those lanterns start attacking him. I mean, that's Kyle's origin. It's redone a little bit.
Yeah, it's a new it's a new angle on it, but it's a flashback scene. My question, there's only one question that came for me out of this book is: there's more than one orange ring?
No.
Yeah.
So why isn't Larfreeze?
That's part of the book's story.
Right. Because it's what's his face, right?
It's his construct.
It's the big thing. I can't remember. Well, because all the constructs were alive.
Yes.
And then he makes constructs out of basically the people he's killed or taken over or whatever.
But he doesn't have the...
The only reason I know the answer to this, and obviously if you really don't follow some of the what's coming up with books, in like the latest previews or maybe even the previews before, they talk about finally answering the question with the ring and everything, since everybody who knows the different Lantern Corps and stuff immediately kind of jumps to the same conclusion. There is an answer coming. It's not that they've suddenly decided there's a bunch of different orange rings out there.
Yeah. Well, I think it was just awkward because we got this nice little... The pink ring, oh, this one goes. And we get, oh, this one goes. But they don't do blue, and they don't do orange when they're showing this. And I think that was probably a hindrance to what was going on for some people. I mean, I was just like, there's more. For me as a person, I've read all that stuff, so I know it. But where is, why is it the construct that's coming up? So, I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought the reaction... the humor was there from some of the other titles. Shut up.
Seriously, we have to really stop this podcast really quickly. Let's finish this up, Ron.
Hey!
Yeah, no, go for it, Toby.
Well, here's where I want to disagree with you, Ryan, because I got lost in the giant Green Lantern big stories, and I actually really enjoyed this book. I'm like, what a cool idea that the ring would pick the same guy.
Yeah.
I was like, that was a cool concept, and that there's people that are angry about it. Go find them, But no, I really enjoyed the book. I like this new take, and we'll see. Or it might not be a new take. So where it goes.
No, it's a continuation.
I just felt that if you hadn't read the Green Lantern books previously, they don't really.
I mean, you kind of know what the Green Lantern is about. It's a ring that picks you, after someone goes. So it's kind of a cool take that there's multiple rings, and it's picking the same guy. So I kind of like that. Yeah, as a story point, I mean, this could be like a regular arc in a regular Green Lantern book. I like this as a story arc.
Yeah.
Well, for me, part of the strength is the fact that, as we've been talking about with all the slight differences in origins and stuff, I actually really appreciated seeing Kyle's origin be very similar to what it was, but also a little different. I really enjoyed all that sort of backstory, and I think, in general, one of the misconceptions that as comic fans we kind of have to go with is, it's a very natural assumption for a new reader that if there's green rings out there, it's not going to take that much explanation to say there could be yellow rings out there and other color rings.
That's all right. Next is I, Vampire by Joshua Felkov and art by Andrea Sorrentino. This is actually one I was hoping would be good, and I actually really, really liked it. The art's amazing. I, Vampire is an old character created by J.M. DeMatteis, if I'm not mistaken. He's sort of in this take on him, he's like a vampire that doesn't want to be the vampires that go out and kill everyone, and one of his creations ends up becoming like the lead vampire queen lord lady. So she's out to kick everyone's ass. And I actually do like that they bring up, like, he's like, oh, do you think you can fight Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, like, in the Green Lanterns? Like, you're going to get your ass kicked. And she's like, oh, we'll destroy all humanity. It doesn't matter. So I really liked I, Vampire #1. Again, something different. I really like what they do with this.
Didn't read it from your explanation of it. I'm glad I didn't.
You're the worst person ever.
I actually read novels, about vampires like Anne Rice that are actually good.
Yeah.
This is a stolen
Anne
story.
Rice is good?
This is a stolen story from one of her vampire books, and
Excellent.
Art didn't impress me enough to get it, and That explanation, definitely, I'm not. I'm not twilighting it out like you do.
Edit your channel out for the rest of this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Anyone else read this?
I read it. It was okay. It didn't really grab me to the point where I'm going to definitely be picking up this book or going to pass on this book. I'll give probably the second and third one a shot. But as you said, I like the fact that they kind of explain for sure, yes, there's Superman out there and all that. But I think to a degree that takes a level of suspense out there, because if it does get too big, if there is a big thing, well, guess what? The Justice League will get involved and put a stop to it.
Yeah. Justice League Dark by Peter Milligan and Michael Janin. This is one I was really, really excited for. I'm a big Peter Milligan fan, generally. Not all the time, but generally. It has all the great Vertigo characters and some of the more kind of fringe DC characters. Deadman, Zatanna, John Constantine, Madame Xanadu, the Enchantress, Shade the Changing Man, some of my favorite characters. It was a pretty good first issue, but I could see if you're not familiar with who these characters, much like, did we totally skip Demon Knights? No, we talked about Demon Knights the other week.
Last week, yeah.
Same thing as Demon Knights. If you don't know who these characters are, I could see you going like, I have no idea what's happening in this book. But I really liked it. So
I thought it was a great mix of Vertigo characters, magic characters from the DC universe, and, kind of older characters. I actually enjoyed this book immensely, and I could follow this book a lot better than I could follow the Flashpoint mini Secret 6.
It's the exact same.
But that's the thing. It's the exact same, but this one I could follow and understand what was going on. The Flashpoint one, I was lost.
I loved that mini. That was great.
But yeah, I definitely recommend this one because, if iVampire gets out of control, it's Justice League Dark is going to have to throw the smackdown.
Exactly.
I really, really wanted to like this book, especially given the fact that I do really like Deadman. I do really like a lot of the characters in it. In general, it didn't really do much for me. I mean, there were certain scenes I liked with Zatanna and that kind of stuff, but I mean, for now, part of it may just be fatigue from having already read a lot of these Flashpoint tie-ins and stuff where some of this content feels a little recycled to me, and it's fine, but I'm waiting for new content to really determine whether or not this is going to keep me interested long term.
Yeah, like Secret 6 didn't go anywhere. So this is like this is finally going somewhere. So it's like you get this story that's a hiccup, and then we're restarting, and then, okay, this is where it's going. So you're kind of like, okay, well, I've already been here. Let's get a move on here. So,
well, I'm a little lost, like Ryan would have predicted on it. However, I'm really excited about Constantine and Zatanna being in the same damn book. Yeah. So, and with that said, too, I'm like with all the redesigns that they've done in the DC universe, the coolest redesign I think is Zatanna in this. I mean, you took something that is significantly her with the stockings, and you put it on her arms. So that's something that made what Zatanna is Zatanna, but you completely overhaul the whole costume, which it takes it more to a street level.
I understand why people don't like the redesign for Zatanna, but if you're moving this character from a performing actor to a sort of street level magician, the changes.
But they kept the essence of what made Zatanna. So exactly. This is like almost a brilliant, really brilliant redesign.
Right.
It's like, how do you take someone like that, put her in, on a street level with Constantine?
Right.
And I was like, it's a brilliant design if you think about it, because you could point out, this is Zatanna. Of all these people, if you don't look at any names, that's Zatanna right there. So that's a really brilliant redesign.
Well, the old Zatanna wouldn't fit in this team. She would stick out like a sore thumb.
Right.
And so, I mean, if they didn't redesign her costume, I think there would be more of a problem.
Right.
So
no, I'm really looking forward to the next one. But like I said, was a little lost. But just the fact that Constantine and Zatanna in the same book is damn cool.
Yeah. All right, next up, Savage Hawkman by Tony Daniel and Philip Tan. This is Hawkman apparently minus Hawkgirl plus a Venom costume.
Yeah.
What? I'm not sure what I thought of this book. I mean, I thought the kind of the story was okay, but it just the whole suit, I think, is what gets me. The whole Hawkman's whole deal is he has this nth metal that basically lighter than air, can make him fly, can do all this crazy crap, gives him super strength. He throws it away, and yet in this, it's sort of like it comes back. And basically, he's like Venom.
He didn't throw it away. He tried to burn it.
He tried to burn it.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Go, Charlie. I'll go off of you.
I completely agree with the whole Venom thing, and yeah, everything they did with the costume completely ruined this book for me. I'm all for sort of retooling characters and even to a degree retelling origins to make it simpler or whatnot. But to me, this was just Venom's popular, so let's try and retool this character to be a little more like Venom. And once I kind of started seeing that comparison, I couldn't stop.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually looking forward to this Hawkman series because I've enjoyed the Hawkman that's come back. Seeing him in Smallville and seeing, his character develop through Blackest Night and Brightest Day and all that stuff. So it's nice to kind of get back to a character that hasn't had his own series in a while. But I was highly disappointed in Tan's artwork.
What?
Like,
What?
Sorry, Toby. I couldn't stand it. It was like if he could do covers on this book for the rest of existence, and I would love it. But
I didn't mind the art itself. I thought it was maybe a little dark.
It was sketchy. Like it was literally like he took all of his work and just smeared it. Mm-hmm. And to me, I didn't think it fit the book very well, and I can't find it anywhere. I'm so blind.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Let me borrow yours. So it's. Yeah, I mean, Philip Tan has a great art style, and all of this art that I saw before made me really interested in it, but reading through it, I couldn't stand it. It was too dark. You couldn't really see things very well. The story didn't grab me, and that villain at the end, Morpheus, seriously, that's the name you come up with? It was a huge disappointment for me.
All right, well, I have to stand up for Philip just because I know the guy, and I really, really like his art a lot. I haven't read the book yet. We're sold out for a while here, and I don't like to take the last copy. We had like one copy left, and I didn't want to take that one. But hey, if you see the guy at conventions, great commissions, go see the guy. You won't regret it.
I got 3 left. Let's do this fast. Superman #1, written, drawn by George Perez, with art also by Jesus Marino. Superman #1, other than Justice League International, maybe the only book that I felt was old. I like George Perez as an artist a whole deal, but this book did not really work for me. I like what they tried to do with Clark Kent and make him a little bit different. He's not with Lois. They just, I mean, this is like opening pages. They shut down the Daily Planet. They destroyed. I mean, is a literal destruction of the Daily Planet. They go and they move off. They're done with the Daily Planet. It gets bought out by another company. They're making like blogs and websites and trying to modernize it. I like the whole idea behind it. It just felt a little old. And George Perez is already off after issue 6, so maybe DC agrees with me. I like what they're trying to do with Superman to modernize him. I just think they should have got a different creator on this book.
Sure, you go first because I want to hear your opinion before because of the All-Star Western. That's the only
as far as I'm concerned on this book, I was very interested. This was my first chance to read Superman as not a prequel, and I don't know what page it was, but it started out very, very interesting. I was kind of into what they were doing with the destruction of the Daily Planet and what that meant to various people and where everything was going. And then Superman sort of showed up with the bad guy, and I just sort of checked out, had no interest at that point, and I read it through to the end and kind of went, they took something I was starting to really enjoy and made me kind of go, why did I read that by the end of it?
Mm-hmm. I actually, this book was up at the caliber of All-Star Western, where I felt I got a great comic book read out of this. Because it's long. Like, I enjoyed sitting there and reading this Superman book. I understand the weakness in the villain. The villain to me was not there. I think that really needed a lot more development. But having the destruction of the Daily Planet, having Lois Lane taking on a new role, a more powerful role for a female in this. This book also showcases the whole affirmative action in comic books now, with the secondary characters being different ethnicities, which we've talked about. But I really liked how we saw what Superman was doing, but Clark Kent was writing. And we were reading the article that Clark Kent was writing. Basically, this is how because it's the death of the Daily Planet, but we're seeing what's dying is what Clark is saying. in this article. And for me, I really enjoyed this Superman book. This is the first time I've actually been like, holy crap, this is Superman. I really think, I think a lot of people, the villain is probably the Achilles heel of this book, which throws a lot of people off. They say, well, this is...
Well,
my issue is holding this up to Action Comics, and it's not even close.
No,
not even in the same league.
It's not in the same league as Action Comics, but this is... This Superman showed what comic books, like old comic books, can transition to.
That's the problem. That's my problem with it. Old comic books. The whole point of these is to be modern and new, and it didn't feel it.
But that's the thing is Action Comics isn't necessarily modern and new because they're bringing in old characteristics with...
it felt fresh.
It felt... Yeah, you want it to feel fresh. This I liked because... With the death of the Daily Planet, that's a big issue. And
they blow up the Daily Planet every 5 days.
That for me was the best parts of the book. And as you said, even some of the stuff they did with some of the characters was a very strong part of the book, but not necessarily Superman himself, and not necessarily.
Yeah, it's the villain fight and the interaction there. That I honestly didn't pay attention to the art when that was going on because I was like, whatever, But it was the story that I was reading in it that I really enjoyed.
When I say old, I don't specifically mean the art, because I always like George Perez's art, but just the whole way I was thinking about it. Toby wants to.
So I'll be honest, I didn't read it, and I'll tell you why. If the book doesn't grab me right away, and I see there's a whole ton to read, I usually have a hard time actually going forward with it. It actually kind of scared me. I read the first couple of pages, and it didn't hook me. The art didn't hook me, and then I flipped through it and I go, do I really want to read this? And I didn't really want to, but I did flip to the end, and I do like the end couple of pages where he goes and sees Lois, and she's with another man, but he listens in, and it's like, he carries the burden. He she doesn't want me, but that's okay with me because I can take it kind of thing, but he's sad about it, which kind of, to me, always made Superman. He's like a guy who carries the burden, right?
Sure.
To me, Superman always kind of like the romantic character, if you want to call it that. He's kind of like, the guy who does everything right, whether or not it's going to make him happy or not, right?
Yeah.
Which, to me, is what makes Superman. And right now, this is my glimmer of hope that Superman will be Superman as we go on in this new 52.
Right.
Because I don't want Superman to be different. The reasons why I like Superman is actually the reasons why he's not very interesting, if that makes any sense, right? So, going forward with this, there's a glimmer of hope that I see my old Superman. So I'm interested to see where it goes, but kind of my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, it wasn't that I think the story or the plot or shutting down the Daily Planet or Lois, I don't think those are bad ideas. To me, it just, like I said, I think my issue came more from the writing perspective than anything. But we got 2 books left. Let's do this. Teen Titans #1 by Scott Lobdell and Brett Booth and Norm Rapmund.
I don't have to say anything about that book.
I like the art. I actually really like the art. These are very new takes on the more recent Teen Titans characters. It's Superboy, although you don't really see him till the very end. Kid Flash and Wonder Girl. The other kind of random characters have not been introduced to this book yet. Oh, and Red Robin, of course, is the team leader, trying to put the team together. I had weird flashes of the New Warriors when I was reading this book. Toby's shaking his head in agreement here.
Yeah.
The whole, New Warriors is one of my favorite comics from when I first started reading comics. The whole Night Thrasher putting together the New Warriors, this had a very similar kind of feel to that. And I don't know if that's just because Scott Lobdell was sort of there with Fabian Nicier's a similar writing style. The Teen Titans and the New Warriors, very similar concepts. But I liked this book more than I thought I was going to based on all the original promo art and the new character designs. I want to see a Wonder Girl's costume just toned down a little bit. I want to see Kid Flash's costume just toned down a little bit. But I like that they kept the Kid Flash's super impulsy, no pun intended, but he could be smart. He could remember everything. And I like that they kept various aspects. I liked Robin a lot in this, and Wonder Girl was all right. I would have liked to see a little different. The Wonder Girl scene reminded me a lot of when Night Thrasher was trying to recruit Starfire. Or Firestar, in the original New Warriors. And she totally flips out at him and tries to kill him.
Yeah, it's funny that you didn't like Wonder Girl in this, because I especially like Wonder Girl in this one. Yeah.
It's not that I didn't like her. It's just I'm not sure on this take on her.
Well, here's my thing, right? So we had Wonder Woman, we had Donna. When Wonder Girl came around, when we were reading her in the last Teen Titans, she was cool as a character, she was part of the team and all, but she wasn't special. There's nothing that made me go, she's cool. This was the first time I'm like, dude, she's a badass.
And see, I actually always liked Cassie.
Yeah, no,
I was never a big Donna Troy fan, but I always kind of liked Cassie.
Yeah, but this one I was like, dude, she's a badass. I actually really digging. She's like, that's my favorite redesign of the costume beside the Satana one. These are like two of my very standout redesigns of the characters. So I'm like, okay, I'm really, really digging this.
I think in general for this book, and it's kind of silly to say, but I tend to like team origin stories where the intention isn't to put together a team, and that's kind of the way I felt about this book. Is it's not that Red Robin's going around going, I'm going to put together a team. It's more like, well, these people are targeting these people, so I need to get to them first.
It's like a team by default.
Yeah. And I kind of like that initial take on things. I like sort of, it feels a little more organic than saying, well, we're just going to form a team now. So I always kind of get into those stories. The other thing that, in sort of talking about new and fresh or whatnot, in a lot of ways, because of some of those aspects of the book, it actually felt a little older to me. And to a degree, it actually works. I mean, as I've sort of talked about a little bit last week, I'm very sort of into a lot of the older X-Men stuff and that kind of stuff, and I really kind of like that sort of 90s team sort of balance that I actually thought this book had really well.
So, what was going to say here? While I was reading the book, so it's kind of funny. If you take away, I mean, if you just look at this as a standalone, fresh start, take history out, I really, really enjoyed this book.
Yeah.
Knowing what the Teen Titans were made me not like this book as much. I like it's the same thing as the Bat family history. I like the Robins, I like the multiple Batgirls, I like Stephanie, I like Cassie. In this, I love the fact that these have these Teen Titans had older brothers in a sense. Tim had Nightwing to look up to. He had something to live up to. Superboy had, Superman. They all had, they were in shadows of another Titans that was there before them, which made me really, really like the book. The last one. But if you take that, if I didn't know any of that, which you kind of have to look at the new DC this way. I really do enjoy this book, and it was a cool, restart to this team book, and hopefully maybe we get to see Fairchild join, the Titans where she would perfectly fit in, or Gen 13 is a team that will go fight the Titans. So we'll see. We'll see.
I guess sort of going back to that a little bit is, at least right now, especially when you have a team thrown together the way this is. There's really no telling what's really existed before or didn't exist before, especially with the whole Red Hood conversation we had earlier. So it could really go either way at this point.
Now, for those of you guys that read this book and Justice League #1, boy, there are some main similarities in it. It ends kind of the same way. Throughout the book, it's almost like the same book. It's like, there's a character that finds a character that doesn't want to be found, and both books end with a guy with, an S on his chest. It's kind of funny that they were like parallel to each other. It's kind of,
I didn't even think about that. All right, very, very, very last book, Voodoo #1, written by Ron Mars, art and cover by Sami Basri. Voodoo is a Wildcats.
She's a Wildcats character.
Right. This is one of the Wildstorm characters. I initially, I actually did go back and I read Grifter #1 before we recorded this. I actually thought it was actually kind of okay. I have no other concept of who Grifter is. I've never read probably anything he's ever been in.
I want him more. I just want him more. Maybe we'll see it later. I just want it more.
Yeah, but I actually thought that Grifter #1 was okay. Voodoo, again, I've probably read one Wildcats book that she's ever been in. I mean, I did read some Wildcats, but not enough to really get a sense of who any of these characters were. I thought the first issue was pretty decent. I thought the art was really good. It is what it is. She's a stripper. She's pretty much naked through the whole thing, but that's sort of the point. I expect from issue 2 and on, this won't be the case anymore. But well, I mean that's her whole backstory in Wildcat.
You know, it's funny. That's how it goes in Wildcat. She's a stripper for like first issue,
right,
and then she's never a stripper again. Except she's really, really good at like bathing suit poses and all that stuff, and being caught in like a interesting, bend over position.
Yeah, but I thought the last page was the whole shock of her. Well, she's an alien. I mean, that's who the character is. That was a good, and they kind of show you on the front cover anyway. I thought that was a good first issue, good kind of shock, and then the last page was a cool last page, and I actually, again, big surprise, kind of like Toby in a few cases, never would have even looked at it twice, but that was actually pretty solid first issue.
The funny thing about this is the other title my girlfriend read, and she really enjoyed it. She didn't understand the last panel, or the last page.
We talked about this, and I'm not going to spoil the last page, but it's done in a way where there's a big panel on the left, there's a big panel on the right, and there's 3 panels in the center that show the action that moves from the left panel to the right panel. I found this totally perfectly fine to read. I had no problem reading this, but it's funny because when you mentioned she had trouble reading it, and you said another one of your friends, they didn't understand what was happening.
Didn't understand what was happening. But that's also, I think, because the phone doesn't come into play until the page before, but there's an ad in front of it. So when you flip the page, there's an ad, or it's on the left side.
I think it's just one of those cases where the more comics you read, the more you'll get some of these more kind of non-standard page layouts where even this is a fairly standard page layout. I can understand how someone who hasn't read a lot of comics might have a hard time reading that last page kind of in their first take.
Yeah, but
well, even after all these years, occasionally I'll be reading something.
Of course.
Oh, that word balloon came before that word.
Yeah. No, is it? She enjoyed it. She liked it. She had no problem with her being a stripper. Once I told her how the end happened, she was like, "Oh, well, I still want to read this again." I think for me, because this came after the controversy of Red Hood, and the joke was, "Well, this week you can get your 7-year-old daughter voodoo," and the opening spread is her on her knees on the catwalk in a strip club. I was actually purposely looking in this book for things that people could bitch at, like the reflection in the glasses of her stripping, the fact that there's a female character that lights up a cigarette in this issue and smokes.
Well, once you're a stripper, pretty much like, well, I can't really complain because you can't really say anything because she's a stripper. You know what you're getting.
It's not a superhero being.
Right. I was just looking for things. But the funny thing about this book is I read it, I enjoyed it, but I was like, this is Species. Like, I thought of the movie Species for,
well, I mean,
all intents and
there's
purposes.
some obvious comparisons there. I mean, I guess for me, one of the nice things about this relaunch, just to sort of sum up my general opinions about it, is I loved a lot of the books I already loved. I mean, I was already kind of into a lot of the Batman titles, into the Green Lantern titles. But the real highlights for me tended to come from books like this and DC Presents and Demon Knights and stuff where they're characters that I've either always kind of liked but never really had a story to gravitate towards, or characters that I only had a passing knowledge of and could just read from the get-go and kind of go, oh, well, that was actually a very solid read. And that I can sort of talk forever about some of these titles and just how brilliantly they can kind of drag me in as a reader.
Yeah, I really like this book as well. I was looking forward to this book, being a Wildstorm guy. I don't know what take this book is going to do, and I was kindly surprised by how much I liked, because in back in the day, the Wildstorm books, let's be honest, there are a lot of them I bought for the art. And this one really has me going. I want to see where she goes with this. I thought it was a very interesting take. Not too far from the original, but except for this, she's not in the team. It's the side characters in this one, actually, I'm kind of curious about. The one that goes and seeks out Voodoo.
The two agents.
Yeah, the two agents, especially the guy, is, the big mystery here. Why? Or, why? Well, I don't want to say why, because it'll give away the end. But, I'm very interesting where this is going to go. It's almost like, a fugitive kind of book. It seems like they're going to set up. She's going to be on the run, and these agents going to be after her. So, I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Well, and she has already appeared in Grifter.
What?
She appeared in Grifter, didn't she?
At the end of that book? I don't recall that either. But
well, who are the girls? So. Who are the girls pursuing Grifter? Or was that Resurrection Man?
That's Resurrection Man. That's the body doubles.
Yeah. Okay, so that's not her.
No, they're a previous thing.
Oh, okay.
That's not Grifter.
I'm just actually hoping that a certain redhead and a guy who likes to wear red sunglasses makes a random appearance in one of these Wildcats connected books. That would be funny.
That's old school joke there.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I'm really glad that DC is bringing these Wildcat basically all Wildstorm characters back.
Sure.
I actually kind of was hoping to see Deathblow in the Blackhawk book, or in some kind of other thing, maybe he's part of Stormwatch.
Well, they've had the Deathblow Batman books, which kind of puts him in continuity.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Which were really good, by the way, too.
Yeah, I actually own the original page out of that one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. No, I'm hoping that he makes it into the universe somehow, somewhere, someplace. So it'll be cool.
Yeah. Well, that's 52 books plus maybe a little bit extra, and we're clocking in at over 2 hours and 10 minutes here. So
dang,
I literally don't know if I could put this whole episode up.
You might have to cut.
I might have to cut it in half.
So then we could be like, this will be like our Harry Potter episode.
Yeah, it'll be part 1 and part 2.
Part 1 and part 2.
But we'll see. We'll see if the
episode
Lipson
27 and 27.1.
Right, we'll see if the Lipson account has enough for him to put this episode up tonight whole. So, we'll see. Charlie, Toby, thank you very much for coming out and sharing your thoughts. And for those of you that have often said the last 26 episodes, hey, Ryan or Brock should get someone else on here to kind of be a third or fourth chair. Charlie
in the
Toby,
past month, we've had 4 people on.
Charlie and Toby have both said that, time permitting, they will be back for future episodes. So anytime you guys are welcome, your opinions are always appreciated on here. And we like the different voices, because me and Brock can only yell at each other for so often. So I got to learn how to yell at you guys properly. I guess if we can do this quick, any last parting thoughts?
I think Charlie summed it up really, really well, is that I think there was a lot of people stuck with what they knew and were surprised by what the take they took, and they were happy with it. And a lot of different titles kind of came into their radar, and so they're picking up some new things. So it's good to kind of see people, branching out a little bit and trying. And I think that this does give people the opportunity to do that. It sucks for people like you and I, who are going to be getting a majority of these titles anyway. But hey, I've cut my Marvel titles to virtually nothing, so DC, please fill the void. I think there were some surprises, there were some disappointments, but we can only tell. It's come January, what we think about these titles is really what matters. So,
I guess my parting thought is, I know I kind of half liked Action number 1. Action number 2 worked for me much better.
Yeah, yes, we're not going to have 2-hour-long episodes.
Oh, hell no.
Number 2s.
Hell no.
Is that all you're going to say?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I guess it's my turn. I thought this is... When DC first announced this, I thought this is the weirdest thing they would ever do. Now that it's over, I thought this is one of the coolest things they could do. Besides the fact that my Batman history is no longer intact, my Titans history is no longer intact. But other than that, boy, were there a lot of surprises, a lot of books I didn't think I would ever read, or books I didn't think I would ever enjoy. So they did a fantastic job. There's a lot of people who are excited about. There's people who said, I haven't read books in 10 years. I'm interested now. So go DC.
Yeah, it's not over.
Yeah, it's not over. We'll see. Let's hope they can keep it up. It's one thing to have a successful launch. The key here now is to keep it going, right?
Well, we had Huntress number 1 came in this week.
I liked it.
I sold out of that book by noon.
Yeah, wow.
People. So I have so many more coming in that it's going to match our numbers on these number 1 books.
Nice.
The Penguin one that came in this week has been a little slow moving, but I actually talked to one of the guys at DC, and he's like, I think this book will sell when it's in trade, like Joker and like the Batman Deathblow stuff. He's like, this is going to be a book people are going to come back on later because it's incredible. There's a new Shade coming out, the James Robinson 12-issue miniseries. There's the Ray book coming out. I don't know. I don't think that book's going to last. But we're getting a new JSA. There are some strong books coming out, either out now or coming up that are not part of the 52 from DC, and the interest level is the highest.
Yeah, I mean, I read more comics last month, more than I had in years. It's just, I kept collecting, but reading them, it's the first time I actually really got back into it and really enjoy reading
You had
them.
homework for the podcast, so.
Yeah, well, I did this before the podcast, yeah. I do wish, it's hard for me to say this, but I kind of wish Marvel did this. I mean, even before this, I was like, DC doesn't really need it, but Marvel almost kind of needs this.
Well, we were talking about this before the podcast. Rumor around Bleeding Cool today is that to tie in with the Avengers movie coming out next year, Marvel will be relaunching the Avengers with Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley, and it's like, are you kidding me?
I'm not excited. I love the original run of the Ultimate Spider-Man, but Brian Michael Bendis, to me, I'm not hating on the guy, but when he took over the Avengers...
For me, it's the relaunch. I'm just like, why are you relaunching this again?
When Brian Michael Bendis took over the Avengers, though, to me it felt he wasn't writing the Avengers. He was writing a book with his favorite characters.
Right.
Not any, stabs at him at all.
That's why it was called the New Avengers.
Yeah, but it shouldn't have been called the Avengers. It should have been like Marvel Knights, or something like that. To me, that was not the classic Avengers anymore.
My favorite Marvel team, yay!
But, no, that's how it felt. I mean, these are his favorite characters. They're all in the book somehow.
But he admitted that going into it. I mean, I remember I don't even remember what convention he was talking about, the way they were going to be relaunching the Avengers at the time. He's like, yeah, I literally just sat down and went, who are all my favorite characters? And I always wanted to see all these people on the team since this is what I've wanted since I was a kid. And
I think we just started next week's episode here, so I think we should put a to be continued in this. Maybe start next week on this. Yeah.
But just to wrap up here, there's been a lot of fun talking about these books, and I'm really happy with the way these books have sold from a retail point of view. And I'm real happy with the fan base, the customer support. People have really, really been digging it. We had some weirdness around the Bay Area last week, so a slower than normal Wednesday. So I'll kind of be interested to see next week for the number 2s, how many people pick stuff up. But we did sell. I've had some really good, strong subscriber numbers on these books. I'm real happy to see people enjoying them. And it sounds like we're going to, this DC book, for the least the next 6 or 8 months, we're going to get some really strong numbers out of these. Just really have to depend.
Well, they had really strong numbers in September.
Right.
I mean, the numbers finally came out, and they were really strong numbers.
And those numbers are not even official. We could talk about this a little bit more at length later, but all those numbers for the DC books are minus between 10 and 20% because they take because these books are technically returnable, even though none will be returned. These do not include international sales. These do not include digital sales. These do not include second prints. These do not include any reorders that shipped later, which many people got reorders in. For any of these numbers that are up there, add 25-30% on top of these numbers, and you'll get a more accurate number, or maybe even more, especially when you take in digital.
The thing is not even adding in those numbers. It was the amount that DC released versus the amount that Marvel released, and DC still...
DC released 52 titles plus their kids' books in Vertigo, which half the kids' books don't. It
was like 60 some odd titles.
It's 60 some odd. Marvel clocked in around 100.
Like 12 or 120?
I don't think it was quite that high. It was 100 something.
It was like 112, I think, was the number
that
I
saw.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
They clocked in. It was almost double.
Yeah.
Well, quality over quantity is what I say in this
case.
I love Marvel characters. I really do hope that they somehow go back to basics and just kind of, all right, what made these things special? What made, what
you need Marvel, the Marvel 617 universe or something like that?
I really do love these characters over there. I really do want to read them again.
Or 16.1. I hope
there's some new writer. I don't know. I mean, like I said, not to hate on Brian Bendis. Maybe they need a new writer to head all the projects over there or something like that. Something needs to happen, and I hope it happens soon.
Well, I mean, just to give some Marvel some love here.
I do enjoy the FF book quite a bit, though.
Well, that's kind of what I was going to say is, yes, I would agree with you in general with the Avengers, New Avengers, that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff has gotten very event-heavy at Marvel. But you can also look at, like, the Greg Rucka Punisher. That's very back to basics again and stuff for that character.
Stuff like that needs to happen more.
Brubaker Captain America has been pretty. I haven't been keeping current with Daredevil, but from what I understand,
I heard that one has
that's
been good lately, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still some individual characters that have done a pretty good job of getting back to who they are. It's just, I really wish other characters like X-Men would. But
Yeah. Hey, real quick. Now, is that really Witchblade on your shirt? Is that not Lara Croft Tomb Raider?
No, this is Witchblade.
Oh, okay. All right. Didn't see the
she-
bomb. Like, from the top, I was like, you
No,
see the,
she's
It's almost like it's the
wet
wetsuit and...
cop
yeah.
thing.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. Anyway, so outro.
All right, well, there we go. If you like this episode, you can listen to this episode and many other episodes, although none of them will probably be as long as this, at www.geekbox.net. It's where we host the Geekbox podcast, which is our kind of parent podcast, as well as this one. You can also visit us at comicsconspiracy.biz. That's the store website. We do have this podcast up there as well. If you want to send us any emails, yell at Brock for hating Wonder Woman. It's thecomic.conspiracy at geekbox.net. We will go ahead and you can also actually, if you're on geekbox.net on their contact form, you can send us something through the contact link as well. So there's all sorts of that. Brock has his blog at conspiratorbrock.blogspot.com, which one day soon,
Yes,
he promises,
I know, I
will
promise.
be moving to his own
I'm working
domain.
on it.
You can follow me on Twitter, Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock doesn't use Twitter. Charlie does.
I might.
None of you people use
Shit
Twitter.
you say on Tuesday
I have
nights.
a Twitter, I just don't post.
Oh, okay. You use Twitter to read other people's Twitter accounts, so. All right.
Well, I posted a little when I was at Comic-Con, but
Nice. Yeah, Charlie, Toby, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You
Thank
guys,
you.
Again, anytime you guys are free, you're welcome on. Brock, and whatever, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm stuck with you. It sucks.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yeah.
We'll go back to some basic. Next week we're gonna record like a 25-minute long podcast.
Yeah,
just
right.
to make up.
You know, I've been listening to some of the old ones, so there's a couple of times, this is going to be a short one, this is going to be a short one, and it's I look at the time and I'm like, dude, that's like any other episodes you guys have up there.
That's my curse. Is
I
whenever
always
say
tell
that.
you, don't talk about time, and you every time.
I can't
you
believe
do
we
it.
went over last week, Ashley. I thought this one's going to be a lot shorter.
so did I.
Yeah, so did I.
I was trying to make Brock and I was trying to give you guys the wrap up sign, but no one was.
No, we
paying
need the wrap it
attention
up
to me,
box from the Dave Chappelle show. Wrap it up, yo.
Yes, but this is talking about comics. You can't stop.
Yeah, this is true.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down.
Better shut it down now, man.
We will see. Well, we will talk to everyone next week.